yours?
No,
Your mother said she found it in your closet.
I don't know. One of the guys must
Must have what?
Look, Dad, it's
Where
not...
did you get it?
Dad,
Answer me. Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
Parents who use drugs have children who use drugs.
We shouldn't whistle. We shouldn't do anything loud this week.
Yeah. Last week we got in trouble.
We got in a big trouble last week. We got in so much trouble I began crying. And it's one of those situations where I didn't want to cry in front of my friend Blake, but I started crying, and then I was more pissed off.
Not the first time.
It won't be the last time. Exactly. The parents get you so mad that you start crying in front of your friend because you get bawled out in front of them.
I thought it was funny that you left it in.
Well, we have yeah, we usually freelance it all out. You know, we have various people who edit the show, and then I guess that just got overlooked.
It just got overlooked.
Because it was so last minute, us trying to get it together. And then we haven't recorded in so long because our parents had a big sit down, which happened before.
We had to wait.
Yeah, and our parents,
See
my
if
parents.
we could hear your dad snoring. And
Yeah.
that way we could continue.
We had to wait, to hear the
footsteps up the
yeah,
back
we
of the steps.
waited. We were waiting for the right snore combination, and then to make sure that we weren't going to wake them up, because you can hear the person snoring, but if you move, they'll wake right up sometimes. But they got mad, and my parents called your parents up, and then there was a big talk too, and then they sat us down, and then I cried again in front of everybody.
I laughed.
Yeah,
Blake. I have nervous laughter.
Yeah, so Blake starts laughing when he's.
I think I've told that story on the show before.
Yeah, with somebody
where I broke the window.
You broke the ball. You threw the ball.
I was at a
sleepover.
I was at a sleepover, and we had this great idea. He had these water balloons.
Because we were talking about starter lineups, and you were knocking down starter lineups.
That was the
segue.
For people that haven't heard that episode, in a nutshell, I was at a sleepover at a friend's house.
Hey, welcome to Saturday Night Movie Sleepovers. I'm Dion Baia.
And I'm Jay Blake.
Yeah.
And I was at Joe St. Martin's house.
Yes.
Shout out to Joe St. Martin.
Which isn't the first time.
And he had water balloon slingshots.
Yeah.
So, pretty hefty.
Yeah,
so we had this great idea that we were going to put...
Nerf balls? No?
No, we were going to put starting lineup figures on, like, his windows.
Yeah, so the backdrop is the shut window pane.
And we put, you know how, like, you know, on your desk you might have, like, a little, like a cardboard thing, maybe your calendar would be on it.
Yeah.
But so, like, we put that in front of the window, like, very thin cardboard.
That would theoretically work. I would pass that today, too.
So he's using the yellow spiked ball from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, like, sewer playset.
Yes, I remember that well. I sliced a kid's head open with that, yes.
And I'm using, like, one of those, like, trillion-side dice.
Oh, yes. It came one of those games, yes.
But it was big.
It's hard plastic.
And it was fucking
laminated.
hard, like, solid.
Yeah.
You know, the ball he was using was hollow in the middle. But the one I'm using is just, like, solid, hard plastic.
And you hit it off into the...
And I fucking got away from me, hit the cardboard backdrop, and shattered the window behind it.
And then the parents...
And his mom came up with, like, you know, I don't know if it was like a vacuum or like just a
Swifter,
like a, you know, a dustpan and hand broom. But she was yelling at us, and I just couldn't stop laughing. And he's hitting me, and I just started laughing. Yeah. And it wasn't like I thought it was funny. I guess I was just really nervous.
It wasn't disrespect. It was just, what are you gonna do? Yeah.
And maybe I was thinking of, like, how idiotic this whole plan was. But that's what being a kid's about.
Yeah,
you know, it's learning from mistakes.
Yeah, and sometimes they're huge mistakes. I mean, I was babysitting a next door neighbor. I was probably like 12, 13, 14 at the time, because I was still playing with toys, and we were roughhousing in the kid's basement. 2 kids were home, and I don't know what we were doing. We were running around, and I winged that freaking spiked ball from Ninja Turtles at the kid, and it hit him right below the eye and cut his eye
Just
open. So he just looks up at me and goes,
It's just a half an inch higher.
Yeah.
You were blinded. That would have been sticking out of his
Ryan Archambault's eye would have been blinded for all year. So what do you do in that situation? How do you explain that away? You can't. So we ran across the street. Some lady was home. My parents weren't home. She had us, so we cleaned it, and then the kids come home. We did okay, and then we made up some elaborate. Well, he ran and tripped and hit his head on the nightstand. And I'm supposed to be the babysitter. They're paying me to.
The one that's fucking injuring the kids.
Yeah, I'm the one freaking beating the crap out of him. I mean, I wasn't being violent. We just got a little out of ourselves.
Got a little out of sorts.
So my dad was pissed last night. We accidentally left it in. That was the Total Recall podcast.
You know what I was thinking? Because watching this episode now.
And some people were like, what the hell is, was that real? And we're like, my dad got mad.
I was thinking watching this episode, and we didn't bring it up last time. Sometimes we'll do the check, because you said when you were little, if you always expected that the title of the movie would be.
I wrote that as a note
in the movie. And
Yeah,
that happened in Total Recall. We never brought it up.
It did. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you had it here. You had it there. That fulfilled that little
check the box.
Checkmate for me as a kid. So I was like, it must be true, because growing up, I used to always think that somehow the movie's title had to be in the movie. So when I was a little kid, they're like, this the whole world became went into maximum overdrive, and I was like, check.
Said,
then real stuff confused me, like Reservoir Dogs, or kind of, I was like, some of the really, Glenn Run.
But I'm excited for tonight's episode.
Yeah,
this is one of my favorite films.
And you've been talking this up. So this has been in the hopper
since
high school.
It was probably a big genesis of us doing a Podwitz sidecast of time travel movies.
Oh, we did do
way back in the day. This was probably my love for this movie was probably the impetus of us saying, like, let's do a whole episode where we talk about time travel movies.
Yeah, and we talked about crap. We did Time After Time. We did Time Machine. We did
Looper.
We did Looper. We did
It was this big discussion back when we didn't even do a lot of research. We just
we would just sit around and we would just talk about what movies we liked and all that. And that came out as a side cast, and that was prior to the inception of the show.
Before the show, we even thought of doing this show.
Yeah, you can still get those if you wanted to on podwitz.com.
Some of them have been reissued.
Yeah, here we tried to remaster them. We take them off the analog, and we try to digitally go through them with white glove treatment to getting the stuff
before
off.
We started doing these as sleepovers.
Yeah, really. Some of them have kind of poorer sound quality because we're taping them off our phone, or we have just a mic in the room, or we're sitting in front of a mic, and then it's a really directional mic. So if you turn left or right, you'll lose our voice
completely.
There's no give.
Shock.
Yeah, exactly. Just using and then just no omnidirectional at all. It's just as soon as you're an inch off, you're gone.
It's like so. And then it was like,
yeah. And then he says to me, yeah, that's funny. I was like, oh.
I have no idea if those episodes are even good. Back in those days,
I listened to them a couple times because we did, not to go down memory lane and bore everybody, but we did a whole bunch. We did horror conventions. We did that
was the first one
when we were out in L.A.
We did a Dick Smith episode.
We did a Dick Smith episode when he passed away. We did a
Bruce Campbell episode.
Bruce Campbell episode,
some of these have been
which is reissued here. What is it called? The Odd Shemp, the Other Shemp. That was the name of that episode.
Yeah, and then we had
the time travel episode.
Completely off the cuff toy episode.
We did about toys in our childhood episode. Like
we were actually going to talk about something else, and then we were.
I called an Audible and 3 off. We were going to do video stores or something. We did. We went into toys. We did action movies. I think.
Did time travel.
We did time travel. We did comic. Remember the?
We did a Bat.
We did a Batman 75th anniversary.
Yeah. It wasn't about like the movie. It was just
about
Batman.
The legacy of greatness of Batman
Full
that
of
we liked.
Yeah.
We did.
Like I said, we didn't do a lot of research.
No, we just off our head. We did a Christmas episode, I feel like, our favorite Christmas specials or something. I feel like we did a, didn't we do a comic, like, novelizations and
we might have done
photo
one
novels
because I had just started collecting
photo
novelizations
novels, and
around that time.
so we did. So we have, and then one of them was time travel. And we talking about this on time travel.
But it was probably because I always make the bold statement about this movie that Back to the Future is the greatest movie ever made. Mm-hmm. Not my favorite movie of all time,
But the greatest.
but I think the greatest movie of all time.
because it's probably one of the best or most perfect scripts ever.
It is a tight. Well, it's interesting because
And it's on lists. It's like maybe AFI is listed it as the 56th best script ever. So that those other 55 got to be some crazy.
that guy was
tight,
really
tight.
good. Script. I bet you Taken's on that.
Yeah. Bet your Dagan's on that mother.
But it's interesting because we'll get into it a little bit further because watching it this time with
And I'm sick. I got sick, so you're gonna hear me sniffling and coughing. Excuse me.
Watching it with it being in mind that we're going to talk about it, watching it with kind of through different glasses. It's an interesting script in that it doesn't quite fit. It's a brilliant script, but at the same time, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
In terms of, especially like, Dion and I went to film school, so we had like dramatic structure classes, and we had directing classes where we learned all about like breaking down scripts and blah blah blah.
It really
doesn't,
desensitized
and
us.
it doesn't really follow a lot of that logic.
The script structure of Save the Cat, like the beats and stuff.
The common script structure, but I think we'll get into that a little bit later. So, but it's a brilliantly executed movie. Not perfect. There's stuff that, you can nitpick certain things. And we'll certainly, hopefully comically nitpick a couple of those things as we talk about this script. But just so, like, everybody's so great in it.
Yeah.
It's just,
cast
I
is
just
great.
love this movie. If you were going to say, like, the purpose of movies is for entertainment.
Yeah. This is certainly one of them.
There's no movie that entertains me more than this movie.
Yeah.
No matter how many times I watch it, I can watch this movie. I watched it yesterday. I watched it again tonight with you. Like I watch this movie several times a year, and it's funny every time. When that thing comes, when the tree falls and the thing comes out of the, the end.
Yeah.
I'm always on the edge of my seat. Like, is Doc going to get the thing plugged in? Is Marty going to? Even though I know it's going to happen, this time it might not happen.
Yeah,
I'm always in suspense.
You
like
forget
on the edge of my. Like I totally get.
You get buckled in that journey. You get taken for it every time.
It's like sweeps me off my feet every time.
Yeah, I think there's a rare cadre of movies that do that. Like, you can say Indiana Jones is kind of do that. Or
Sure, yeah.
I remember when I don't know if it still does, but when I first saw the Pirates of the Caribbean, the first movie in the theater, it was right after we graduated film school, and that was kind of the first movie that snapped me out of going to film.
Well,
like,
I used to say things to you like, for me, like The Matrix. When I saw The Matrix, we saw it I saw that came out our senior year of film school. And I just was kind of really jaded. And then I went and I saw that movie by myself. And I came back to you and I was like, that movie makes me feel like I felt when I wanted to make movies.
Yeah.
Like it reminded me what it was like to be a kid.
Yeah, and this certainly...
And I remember, like, you didn't quite get it. And then when you saw Pirates of the Caribbean, you said, I know what you mean now.
Yeah,
like,
I was crying. I was crying again.
Did that to me.
Yeah, it's just one of the... And then I can see then what you say, every time you watch it, you get so, caught up in it that you forget where it's going, and then it's like you're almost reliving it again for the first time, and that's a testament to how good it is, like written and directorial.
Yeah, it's one of those movies. I think when we talked about Rocky, which is probably my favorite movie of all time, I talked a lot about how like that movie's in a lot of ways they caught lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
The performances, I can't imagine anybody being better in any of those performances that they are. I can't imagine anybody doing a better score for Rocky than Bill Conti did. It's just like everything about that movie so fucking good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I feel like this movie's like that too. Like everything just comes together.
Hey, I've always loved... And I guess on an unconscious level, because I never made the connection, but I've always loved Zemeckis.
Yeah.
Robert Zemeckis. I love Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which we did last year. And I feel like I was thinking while watching this movie, Back to the Future, that we didn't even talk enough of Christopher Lloyd as Judge Doom, and we
Yeah.
didn't give him his due, which we could probably do here. But I mean, Zemeckis for me, like his earlier stuff, not so much, but just this stuff, and then especially I've been really enjoying the past couple of years. I think he did Death Becomes Her too, which I love. I hope that's right, and I love all his live action rotoscoping he's been doing, with Beowulf and with Christmas Carol. But I've always found him to be an innovator, and I've really enjoyed his storytelling. And then when you bring in Spielberg into that into that equation, and it really makes a lovely blend of a pound cake.
It's interesting because Ready Player One came out a few months ago, and I remember waiting in line to see another movie with a friend of mine, and they were like, "Oh, so what do you think of Ready Player One?" I was like, "I don't know anything about it. I didn't read the comic book or the book, whatever it's based on.
Yeah, the novel it's based on.
And I don't, I've seen a couple of the teasers, and I said, but what I will say about it, and I only probably thought this way because of our Roger Rabbit episode, was that I said, what I will say about it is, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, nobody could make this movie except for Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, he's the
only
one.
He's the only one that every person every company that's going to license their product, their thing to a movie and have it live in beautiful harmony with every other thing. There's only one person that could make that happen, and that's Steven Spielberg. And even though he didn't direct Roger Rabbit, it was his influence
his personal relationships with these companies,
with
Disney,
Warner Brothers and Disney, to say you could have Donald Duck and Daffy Duck in a scene together,
in a frame, or Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse, which has never been done again. I mean, that's 30 years ago, this 1988, 2018. So it's that's never been done ever since, and it's all because of Spielberg coming together and doing that.
And the thing that really kind of, like I said, I never really thought anything of Ready Player One before it came out until I saw a commercial, and it had a quote from some critic, and I don't know what critic it was, but the quote was pure Spielberg movie magic. And I was like, oh.
If that's true,
then this might be the best movie ever made. Because you know what? I've been longing for some pure Spielberg movie magic.
Yeah.
And even though he didn't direct this movie, and he didn't direct, questionably Poltergeist, and he didn't direct Roger Rabbit, and he didn't direct Goonies, which we did recently on the show.
Did he direct Young Frankenstein? I'm sorry, Young Sherlock Holmes? Young Sherlock?
He didn't direct Young Sherlock Holmes.
He didn't direct the Goonies.
But all these movies are, we're Spielberg kids.
Yeah.
One
way or another.
You could say, I always say our generation is the video store generation. And really our generation is the Spielberg generation.
Yeah.
We grew up with, of course, Jaws predates us and stuff like that. But once he hits his groove in the 80s where he's producing all these, they all have this Spielbergian flavor.
Yeah, of course.
And Alan Silvestri's score for this movie is so, it's very John Williams in a way, but it also, because I think Silvestri also did Amazing Stories.
Yeah.
And that's this theme always reminds me of the Amazing Stories theme song, which was a Spielberg
And
production.
Did he end up going on to do Roger Rabbit? I've forgotten now. Did he do Roger Rabbit's score too?
Silvestri, he may have, yeah,
because I feel like he was doing something at the same time, and then he was dividing his time between two. But that sounds right. That could be wrong. We'll have someone look into that.
I'm gonna get
old Mother Google a little in a little shoe.
But do you remember seeing this movie for the first time? Because I do, for sure.
I do too. I saw this in the actual theater. And it's weird because it's one of those movies that it's probably one of the last times I remember seeing
I went to the movies.
Yeah, it's one of the last times I've ever been to the picture show.
Alan Silvestri did do
Roger Rabbit. Okay, good. I thought he did, but
which is a very different score.
Yeah,
and I think
very
we
lush.
talked about
and
that.
I don't think you recall that you liked it as much as his others.
Well, yeah, I think it was just
stuff.
that in the context of Alan Silvestri's scores,
Yeah.
Roger Rabbit's not my favorite.
It's very lush,
but I remember
with
talking about
because it's doing 5 or 6 different things. It's
Yeah.
doing film noir. It's doing adventure. It's trying to do zany cartoon,
jazzy, this, that, the
80, and then it has that 80s influence. It's like gravy. It's getting everything on the plate. the 80s. So I remember seeing this. This is one of the last times I remember actually going by myself with my mom to the movies. I remember being very young and my mom taking me to a lot of the revival movies.
And we should mention that Claire's still alive.
She's still with us.
You just never went to the movies, just you and her.
Yeah, exactly. She's still with us. She just backhanded me a couple of days ago. Yes, she's still with us. And I remember going to see like the Disney movies when they did like Bambi, Peter Pan in the theater for those revivals of Snow White in the early 80s.
Snow White. Yeah.
You know, and she took me to see them. And I remember we went one day, it got to be fall or summer 1985. I think it was fall because I remember being cold. And we went with my next door neighbor in New Haven and that woman's mom, Lily Flanagan. I forget her mom's name, but her mom, I remember, was, how would that work?
Mrs. Flanagan.
Well, she was deaf, Mrs. Flanagan. So I don't know how that would work. But so we went to it was the three of us, and then I went. So I came along. And it's insane to me to think that, like, I'm older than my mom now than she was then when she took me. You know what I mean? To this thing, and then like relating to like how old then Lily, the next door neighbor, had to be. She's probably like 10 years older than I am now, or 15. And then her mother's probably the age of my parents now. It's all this big. Great Scott! It's like it's just a conundrum. It's just so I remember going. I had to be am I 6 years old at the time? I just turned 6, and in 1985. And sitting in that theater, I remember loving it, not getting bored at all, completely understanding from back to front what's happening. And I don't know if that's unique for like people our age that have such a love for cinema and that was inundated with it at such an early age. And then I remember getting home, and when I got home, my mother went inside to prepare dinner, and it was kind of getting blue out, like dusk. Yeah. And I was playing outside. I got my Constructs out. I made out of Constructs a DeLorean. And then I had this is why I thought it was kind of wintry, because I remember there's snow being on the ground, and I remember having like this little snow viper Cobra guy, and I had him in it, and he was going to be going back into time, and then it got too dark, and Mom was like, get inside because dinner's going to be ready.
The werewolves are coming out.
Yeah. It's the
coyotes are on
they're
the
running.
way.
Yeah, correct. They're at the gate. I'm running, trying to get in. She snatches me away, and they destroy my toys, and they eat the toys, and I'm like, no. She's like, don't ever go back. Don't ever go out after dark again. Boy, I'm sorry, Mom. Never again. Because that's how Gunwave in New Haven was.
New Haven it was dangerous.
In the mid-'80s. Hey, we moved out of there. It did get a little dicey. But, and I remember that being a very unique memory for me. And then we had the notorious tape that I always bring up, the cassette, the videotape that has, I gotta get all this right. It's a glorious video.
The fact that it comes up, that must have been at SLP.
Of course it was SLP.
Because every movie we've talked on this show,
we relate to this.
That was on that tape.
And you know what? It's one of those 80s hard shell, like Magnavox SLPs.
Yeah.
So that shit might have even been 8 hour. Like, you know how, like, back in the day they had some weird parameters for, and the shit's heavy.
Shit was sketchy, man.
Shit, when you're getting that shit direct from Japan,
Things were regulated.
There were no regulation, man. SPLP, SLP, EP.
8 hours on that 6 hour tape.
That shit's just like
Push it to the limit.
SLX, LEP. So that tape had Karate Kid, Into the Terminator, into Commando, and then Commando would fuzz out into Cloud City to the end of Empire Strikes Back, meaning that after Terminator, we had taped originally Empire Strikes Back, and then when Commando came on, my dad was looking for a tape, pop that in.
Yeah.
So I got over Karate Kid probably when I moved out of New Haven, because we talked about that in the Karate Kid episode, and I taped Back to the Future on the beginning of that tape over Karate Kid. So then what would happen is on that tape was we'd watch Back to the Future, and at the end of Back to the Future, it would fuzz out right at the end when Daniel's got his leg broken, and he's in the position.
Right, he's just about to do
the crane kick. And the crane kick may even come up like quick. And then he does it and it falls, and it's like, oh, thank you, Mr. Miyagi. And then Mr. Miyagi sees his face, and it turns all of a sudden into like nuclear holocaust of 20.
that fuzzes out.
Yeah, 20,
the
29.
skull being crushed.
Yeah, or you see like the HKs flying by. So that was on that tape. So I remember watching that quite a bit and loving that movie.
Yeah.
And then probably getting into like high school, I haven't watched it. I really this is taking too long, but I remember then being like, when are they going to make a part 2? Are we ever going to see a part 2? And then them making a part 2 in '89. I remember going to see that and loving that.
Yeah.
And I remember going to see 3 in the theater and really liking that too. And I know people don't like 2 or 3 as much, and 3 gets a lot of shit, but I like them just as much.
I actually like 3
better than 2.
2 now, better than 2.
Yeah. And then 1 just ended up always being with me. I hadn't seen it probably in years, and then rewatching it with you had to be at least 20 years. And it's funny because it's such a part of me, this movie. I was instead remembering while watching the scenes my memories of what I was thinking about when I was a kid watching the scenes.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So like at the scene when he's like talking to Jennifer at the beginning and they're talking about going up to the lake, I was remembering as a kid thinking about what the lake looks like. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they're going to be in sleeping bags.
Crystals.
Yeah, so like I was having those memories of what I was, of me trying to speculate in my head like the fantasy of the plot. So it was so surreal watching it from back to front again and seeing all this stuff, and a lot of stuff I forgot. Like this probably puts into perspective why I have such an affinity for like the Honeymooners, say, because I knew who Jackie Gleason was at a very young age because of the Smokey and the Bandits, and then I saw the Honeymooners here and they used to replay him. So from a very young age I've been obsessed with the Honeymooners. So it's just so funny. And I think and then I've always talked about in the past year or two my love for like 50s music. We got Johnny Ace's The Pledge in here. Mm-hmm. We have the Penguins' Earth Angel. We have Johnny B. Good in here. And then that went into a broader scope when I was little, like calling radio stations, asking them to play Earth Angel so I can cassette tape it to have Earth Angel to listen to because I loved it so much from this movie.
Yeah.
And then the romanticism that we've talked about of the 50s in the 80s and then especially in this movie probably got me versed enough with the 50s that growing up, you and I have talked in other casts. We kind of had pseudo 50s lives because we were watching Dennis the Menace, Leaving the Beaver, watch Father Knows Best, all the cartoons, and then seeing it romanticized on the big screen with this movie or all the other ones we've talked about. So it's just all this stuff was shooting back to me, and I was crying again.
Yeah, and it was overwhelmed.
Very emotional. And I'm sick. I'm on like all kinds of meds and stuff. I'm coughing up phlegm, so I'm a little foggy.
I remember my dad taking my brother and I and likely my stepmother also to see this, and I remember that we got there and the theater was packed.
Yeah,
and we had to sit in front.
I'm sorry to interject, but yeah, I remember whenever we saw it, I remember it being packed, and I remember we had to sit up kind of near the front.
Yeah,
and that's you don't really do that much, but it's from my mom and all these women.
Yeah, I remember because you definitely had to look up at it because we were like maybe not the front row, but like second or third row, and I remember that and just being in complete awe of like the skateboard sequence. And then I don't know if we got it after the movie or before the movie, but I had like the movie magazine.
So you saw this first run like I did, right?
Yeah.
Or in second run, but when it was still in the theaters.
It might have even been first run.
Yeah.
It's one of, it's funny, somebody recently put on Twitter, like, what was I think Amazon tweeted out, like, what was the first R-rated movie you remember seeing in the theater? So it got me thinking about, like, what movies do I remember seeing in the theater? And I think Color of Money might have been, like, the first R-rated movie I saw in
your
the
dad
theater.
took you and your brother, right?
Yeah, we went to go see. But I was like, because I was trying to think, like, what was, like, Thunderdome? What was Mad Max Thunderdome?
Yeah.
Was that R? But that was
PG-13.
PG-13. So I was trying to think of, like, what else
You saw that in the theater?
Yeah.
Sweet. That's pretty sweet.
And so I was trying to think of all the movies that I saw in the theater.
That's a good. Well, I saw RoboCop, but then I got taken out. That's 87. But then I saw same in 87, the Deadpool, and we stuck through that. That's probably R.
And so I was remembering this, and then when we watched it, I do remember sitting up front. I remember having the magazine. And I was wondering,
it's like a Starlog or something, or just
something
something
that
that
was
was just
how
made.
like they would just make like
a one-off,
or maybe I got it at the theater because
like a program.
It might have actually been like a program. Who knows? Because Dion and I, when we go to conventions now, we see somebody's always selling these programs. Back in the day, there was like movie programs
like
that you would
like
get
Broadway
for
or
free
play,
at the movies.
Yeah, they discontinued
and if it was like
that.
And if it was like Grease, it had like you could cut out the record and play like the single, like in cardboard.
And if it was a special event like opening weekend, you get this limited run. It's amazing. All this.
So
forgotten.
maybe it was even a program. I don't remember, but I remember having the magazine. I remember being completely obsessed with like the skateboards, even though I was never allowed to have one.
And I feel like McDonald's did a tie-in run for Back to the Future 2 and 3. Like they had cars, and I don't know if they did it for this movie.
I know Pizza Hut did for the second one. Because you could get like these crazy sunglasses that were supposed to be like the sunglasses that the future people wear in the second one.
Like the wraparounds, or
yeah, it was just they had different ones,
yeah.
like different shapes. And but this movie, I remember that. I remember having the magazine. I just and then within recent years, I had this thing when we were in film school. I caught the end of the second one on TV with a roommate that Dion and I had. And I remember being like, wow, this is really fucking awesome. And being like, the second one is amazing. And then I rewatched the whole second one. I was like, the second one maybe doesn't hold up as much as I remember. The end, I think the end is great because you're seeing everything from different perspectives.
Of the first one, yeah.
And I remember thinking like that's
really
that's
cool.
brilliant and really well done.
And kind of, hard to kind of tackle.
Yeah, like a difficult thing to do and have it seems so genuine the way it does. But this movie, I don't know, at some point I just came around on this movie and just realized everything that I was saying before, that it's like no matter how many times I watch it, because I watch it often, that like I always laugh, I always think Christopher Lloyd's expressions are funny, I always find new things about it that like maybe I either didn't see it, didn't notice at all, or noticed and never thought anything of and then forgot.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, and at the end, I always get swept up into like the end. Like I'm always, it always makes me anxious.
I forget how big the movie was too. I mean, Michael J. Fox was huge on the scene with like Teen Wolf. And
what's interesting about Teen Wolf is he made Teen Wolf first.
Yeah.
He made Teen Wolf like on hiatus from Family Ties, which is what he was really known for.
And that's how big he was on that.
And he made Teen Wolf, and then like the people of and then Back to the Future was made, and Back to the Future had a very quick turnaround.
Yeah.
And I just imagine thinking like the people from Teen Wolf must have been so excited that Back to the Future came out first. Because after Back to the Future came out first, he was a big star.
And then they have him be in Teen Wolf.
And then they put Teen Wolf on after this movie came out. And even like overseas, when it's dubbed, they changed Scott, his name's Scott, I think Scott Howard in Teen Wolf. They changed his name to Marty.
Wow.
And other like Costa Rican movie posters. There were posters in in foreign markets that were changed
for Teen Wolf.
That changed the title from Teen Wolf to like The Boy from the Future. It's really trying to capitalize on like this is a sequel.
I mean, he was huge. I remember Huey Lewis being a freaking staple of the 80s. That was like, he was the soundtrack.
Was a big album, and Marty has a Huey Lewis sports poster on his wall.
And like Huey Lewis was always like this guy that like looked at like so older to me. He's probably like 20, but it's like he always looks so much older in those videos.
He does look like a more mature guy than.
And he has a very unique voice. You know what I mean? And he always seemed awesome with those 80s sunglasses on. And then you have like, I knew Christopher Lloyd back then, of course, probably from Taxi. Yeah. It's before Clue was maybe a year later.
When did
or so.
Wrath of Khan?
That's
Search for Spock.
That's 83, right?
Search for Spock.
84, 83, and he practically invents Klingon, kind of there, speaking Klingon. But he was well versed, at least for me. I knew who he was, so it was seeing him in this. It like you said, the cast is immense, and it's done in such a way where like anybody can kind of follow it. And I was surprised, now coming 20 years on seeing this movie and watching it tonight, like some of the plot I forget.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like it's some of it's kind of scandalous. If you get into like if you abstractly analyze what's going on here, but
it's interesting because that gets talked about, like this the Oedipal thing.
Yeah,
of that, like his mom's in love with him, and
they play the incest card very well in this movie, which is interesting.
And it's just, like I hear those arguments, and I can see those arguments, but I also feel like it never occurred to me to be.
No, it never did either. But it's
not
funny.
like Marty's like tapping her in the back of the car.
No, but you know what?
You know what I mean? It's like he's reluctant, he's standoffish.
Yeah.
and she doesn't know.
But he's kind of into it, which is odd because he's giving it to her that she's good looking, which is kind of like he's like, wow, he's kind of flat, and of course Leah Thompson's amazing in this, and it's amazing to think then that people always bring up in an incest conversation Star Wars.
Sure.
They're always like, I'm like, you're talking about Star Wars. Look at here, or this is like, there's so much, and then even like the idea of them setting up almost a sexual assault for them, like,
well, not even
nowadays.
Almost.
It is. Or then there's some stuff that's in the deleted scenes where you're like, there's amazing, like he chloroforms somebody. He says like, "What am I I'm gonna wake up gay?" It's like it goes down that line of reasoning where like in the '80s we talk about it with boobs. In this movie there's a lot of like with boobs. There's like the peeping Tom aspect in here. There's a deleted scene where Doc Brown's looking at a Playboy, and it's like those were huge staples of themes for young people in the 80s, like getting nudie mags, watching R-rated movies, saying shit all the time. So you certainly have your dumpingness of 80s stuff in here. Before I forget, because I remember when you said I said Leah Thompson, I also remember at the time being in the car with my mom in West Haven, sitting at a traffic light in front of the University of New Haven, looking up at the light, listening to the radio. And on the radio, some critic like, the Wolf's Den, whatever his name is, doing a review of Back to the Future and commenting on how much he liked Leah Thompson's role, and me liking that because I had seen the movie.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there like listening in the car like, oh, I know what he's talking about. Leah Thompson was really good as his mother / love interest or whatever in the movie. So sorry, that was an early memory.
Cast, I mean, a couple of things before, I think we should bring it up just because I find it really interesting on how conception, how ideas come to be. And the idea of this movie, I'm sure people that, some of you might know this, Bob Gale, who was Robert Zemeckis' partner, they always wanted to do like a time travel movie, but they could never come up with like the plot that they felt was good enough and the rules and all that stuff. So it's something they always kind of toyed with. But Bob Gale went home and he was visiting his parents
in St. Louis,
and he was like in downstairs or whatever, and he found his father's old high school yearbook, and he was flipping through his dad's old high school yearbooks, looked at a picture of his dad, saw that his dad was the president of his graduating class. And thought to himself, like, the president, I had no relationship with the president of my graduating class at all. Like, I wonder if I would have been friends with my dad if we went to high school at the same time. And that was kind of like the genesis of this idea of like, what if that we did that as a time travel movie? A kid has to go, he ends up going back in time and going to high school with his parents. And then and then zaniness ensues.
Yeah, and then Zemeckis had like a minor idea of this idea of a mother saying that she's not.
Yeah, like the comedic aspect of having like this mother plays off as being like so virtuous, like you can't call a boy, I never did anything.
I never was alone in a car with a boy or whatever. Yeah,
and all this stuff. And then he discovers like all like the things about his parents that they might have lied to him
very
about.
Promiscuous.
Like I never fucking smoked pot or whatever, whatever it is.
And then lo and behold, so then I guess they came up with these two ideas, and then
which is a great.
And they had just done used cars, right? So I guess they had done 2 movies together, and they were kind of lukewarm, and they secured development rights with somebody, like Columbia or somebody says, okay, you can develop this. So they develop a script, and this is way before they even have like the car as a time machine or anything, and they're trying to like flesh out ideas, and the only person that I guess was liking it was Steven Spielberg, who they were friends with, who they'd already done 2 pictures with Spielberg attached that were failures. Yeah,
and they didn't want to do another movie with Spielberg because they were like, if this one fails, then it's going to be like
we're just friends.
We're only get movies made because we're friends with Spielberg, even though they're crap movies.
Yeah.
So, and apparently Spielberg understood this, and then they went off, and they were trying to develop it, and then he ends up getting Zemeckis.
Well, Zemeckis ends up going to do Romancing the Stone, and that becomes a hit. And I loved Romancing the Stone when I was little. And he comes back, and then they're kind of...
And all of a sudden, like, everybody wants to do Back to the Future.
So
now he's hot.
So then he says, well, let's go back to the guy who was kind of into the idea since the beginning, and they grab Spielberg again. And then... They write a couple versions of the script. Evidently, this went through like a ridiculous amount of screenplays. But it's funny because you have the dichotomy in the 80s of they have this raunch with, Invasion, Revenge of the Nerds, or Porky's, Meatballs, all those kind of really you get like the perversion of the 70s becomes like almost okay and into the 80s.
You get like the early 80s sex comedy.
Yeah, and so people were reading this and they were like, no, this isn't raunchy enough. We want it. It's too lighthearted. But then they're like, okay, let's take it to Disney, because Spielberg had a relationship with Disney. Disney's like, no, there's
a mother and a son.
There's incest here. What the hell? So they thought it was too raunchy. So there's this idea where they're like, they can't win, where they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. But, in terms of specific things, I think that we can bring those up like as we kind of work through it. But so that's the initial idea. Now, I said earlier, like one of the things that I feel like so great about this movie is the cast. I mean, of course, Michael J. Fox, but Christopher Lloyd is so fucking good in this movie. So good.
It's a lot of eye acting, I noticed, because they talk about how the first choice was John Lithgow, and then he became unavailable for whatever reason. He might have been doing Harry and the Hendersons. And so they went to Christopher Lloyd. He said no initially, and then his wife, and then he said yes, he read it, and he's like, okay, I'll do it. But if you think of the two of them, they have a lot of that eye.
Yeah.
They're very, lot of expression through the eye stuff, and they have a similarity. Because I can't see, I could see John Lithgow kind of doing it, but it'd be such a different role,
Yeah, well, he plays kind of, back then, he had done, both of them actually had done
Buckaroo
Banzai. And Lithgow's kind of really out there, Buckaroo Banzai. And, but Lloyd's great. Always, since this movie, always loved Leah Thompson.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm in love with Leah Thompson from this movie.
She looks gorgeous now.
And also Howard the Duck. I have a huge crush on her from Howard the Duck. But this movie, for my entire life, I talked about how my whole life I've been in love with Elizabeth Shue. When we did Adventures of Babysitting last year. Also, my entire life I've been in love with Lorraine. and then Crispin Glover, man. Well, first of all, Leah Thompson's never been as good in anything as she is in this movie.
Yeah.
She's so good. Everybody's so good. Crispin Glover also. His performance in this movie, he should have been nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting
he's so
Actor.
out there, but it works so well.
It's so perfect. He's so funny. Like, when he's at the beginning, when he's watching The Honeymooners, and then he's like...
That laugh.
His laugh. He's so funny, and then, like, just his whole like, weirdness is so brilliantly used.
And that's all him. Like, they say he did all that himself, and they had to like cut back by 50% of his weirdness and his eccentricities.
Michael J. Fox talks about like there was the scene with the broom and he's sweeping and had all this action with the broom that he was doing, and Zemeckis is like, well, what's going on with the broom, man? He's like, well, I just figured, and
sweeping away is
and Michael J. Fox is like, I actually thought I was fine with it, but it's just the way he carries himself.
But you could tell there's so much going on there with him. Like, is it just how he's, like they said, the shakiness, the nervousness is all him.
Yeah.
His insecure looking at people and then the play with his hair.
He's got a very Shemp thing going on, where it's like always it's greasy, but it's always like falling into his face.
Yeah, and he can't, because there's no hair on the side to hold it up, so it's just falling to this, and even I forget watching it now, watching the two of them, him and Leah Thompson, first as the 40-year-olds or whatever they're supposed to be, like late 40s or early 50s, and then you see how young they appear when you go back to, and she's a Bobby Soccer and he's a nerd, and it's amazing to see they really try to even like Dean Cundy, like shoot him almost soft.
Yeah.
So you don't see any wrinkles. So they look so young and so, so you see there's such a stark difference. I mean, they're amazing. I love James Tolkien, who plays Strickland. I've always loved him. They said they got him because they loved him in Prince of the City, which is a movie I love.
There are a lot of returning, some of the side characters, some of the side cast of supporting cast are previous Saturday Night Movie Sleepover. Him being one. He's in Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, he's in Masters
which
of the Universe.
We did last year.
I mean, he's in Top Gun. He shows up in a bunch of places, and he always looks the same. He's like, he hasn't aged. He's one of these guys, and I'm sure we'll get to more stuff he's been in. But he's a great role in Masters of the Universe that we've covered.
Yeah. But Crispin Glover, so great. I love the scene where, they're going over the plan as he's hanging the laundry in his backyard.
Yeah,
and he's like, well, why is she going to be mad at you? He's like, well, good girls don't like when you when you try to take advantage of him, and he's got the bra in his hand. He's like, "Are you going to touch?" And then he's like, "Well, what's your line, George?" He's like, "Hey, you take your damn hands off." He says, "Do you think I should swear?" He's like, "Yes, George. Damn it, swear." I love this movie so much. All those little things. What I don't know if I ever noticed it before. If I did, I never thought enough of it to remember it. In that beginning scene when he comes home, there's a lot of really nice little things going on in that scene.
Which one?
When Marty comes walking in the 80s.
Yeah, I got a very 80s. It's almost like a what's his name? Who did Tim Burton? Kind of like John Waters kind of a feel. Like when they're sitting at the table. Yeah. It's very 80s modern, weird.
But he walks in and Biff is
in there
giving crap to his dad, and the guy who plays Biff, Thomas Wilson, great,
amazing. And they say he's completely different in real life, but I've always thought he's such a big asshole and all.
Yeah, I remember, and other than Freaks and Geeks, I don't know if I've ever seen. He's in April Fool's Day.
The Jamie Lee Curtis movie.
No, she's not in that one.
I'm thinking of the Prom Night. Sorry.
Yeah, but I think he's in April Fool's Day. But other than that, I've never really seen him in anything but Freaks and Geeks.
And all three of these movies.
But
and it's weird because Crispin Glover doesn't reprise his role, and I thought he did. And I remember there was even a slight controversy when we were little. Not you, but people were like, "That it's because you only see
he's upside down."
Yeah, he's upside down
with the makeup.
Yeah,
and he ended up suing them for his likeness and winning.
And why didn't he? But I don't know why he didn't come back.
They had some kind of falling out with Zemeckis, or he wanted more money than.
Because I don't know if people know, but Crispin Glover is quite out there, and that's not neither here nor there. Yeah. But I heard his this is years ago, but I heard he likes to collect antique medical equipment.
Probably.
The oddities. He's and then when you see him in Charlie's Angels, that's his regular outfit.
Yeah.
He wears those kind of suits. Willard, he's amazing in Willard. So he's such a, but he's quirky. And that was a labor of love. He did a music video for Willard where he sings Ben.
Yeah.
And he paid for it himself, and he had all these really hot supermodels in it that he sings to, and it works out great.
Well, the funny thing is,
he's that's how he's so artistic. He borders on the being in the John Waters or that kind of territory.
You reminded me of. If you've researched this movie, one of the things that Michael J. Fox was really attracted to with this movie was the fact that Crispin Glover was in it.
Yeah.
He had worked with Crispin Glover in a TV movie and a couple episodes of Family Ties, and he liked acting against Crispin Glover. So he's like, "Oh, that would be a lot of fun. I would love to work with Crispin." But Thomas Wilson, so great in this movie.
And he looks so great as old Biff.
Yeah.
Completely believable. For me, almost the most believable. And then as the young Biff, it's unbelievable.
But some of the subtle things that are going on in this scene that I really notice now, and maybe it's because
us being older.
We're older now.
Yeah.
We're not quite as old as they are in this scene, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're definitely closer to their age now than we.
And I don't think we need to rehash the movie. People probably seen it.
If you haven't seen Back to the Future,
you got to go ask somebody. It's not up for us to help you.
Shame on you.
Yeah.
Two,
go check it out.
Pause this and come back.
But the scene you're talking about is when Marty gets home and they're towing the car back, and
Biff is yelling, is like, "I can't believe you didn't tell me it was a blind spot." But the subtle things in this scene are. Okay, after he comes and Biff walks into the kitchen and is like, I towed your car all the way back here, and all you have for me is light beer.
Yeah, light beer, yeah.
And he walks out and he sees Marty.
Yeah.
And he looks at Marty, and there's this look on his face where, for a second, there's a beat where, Biff looks at him he realizes, I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
And then he kind of pulls himself back out of it. He goes, "What are you looking at, butthead?
Yeah.
Say hi to your mom for me." But there's this look right when he looks at Marty. It's he realizes that he's a fucking asshole.
I almost interpreted that look as maybe Marty could take me in a fight. This is getting the age of where this guy, if he pummeled me, I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But to keep that edge, that's what he says to him. What are you looking at, butthead?
And then a couple of minutes later, they're having dinner, and that's the scene we're talking about where George is laughing at the honeymooners, and
Leah Thompson saying all this stuff, and he's not listening at all.
Yeah, well, then there's she's when she delivers the line, it's and that's when I realized that I would spend the rest of my life with him. It's sad.
Yeah, and she's got
the drink in her hand, and she realizes
She's
that's
a
the
fucking
ruin.
alcoholic.
Like that's the moment my life was ruined. Almost very heavy stuff that like I certainly never noticed when I was a kid.
And he's. I mean, yeah, and they talk about that with Zemeckis. Zemeckis had some really specific, and I guess that's to attribute to him as a really good director. He'd go in with these actors and he'd say, "This is what I want to accomplish in the scene. Here's the beats I want you to hit, the subplot," and he'd be very specific with them, and they'd have to hit it. And that's great that he's able to see these, to have these minor beats that other people won't be able to pick up on. But you have that such a real world dilemma of. What's his face George is in his own world watching TV. She's talking to him the entire dinner and he's not answering.
And she's reminiscing.
And about
like the best time of her life, which was high school, unfortunately.
And she's now just drinking. Didn't he lose his job? Is Jimmy Olsen from the Superman movies? He lost his job at Burger King.
He's on his way to grab the bus to go to work because he's in the outfit.
Yeah, and then
Jimmy, the guy that played Jimmy Olsen, and then the sister. Wendy Jo Sperber.
Yeah.
She's someone that people that grew up in our generation have seen her she was in Bosom Buddies.
Yeah.
She was the one that was in love with Henry, who was Peter Scolari's character on Bosom Buddies. I think she might be in Bachelor Party. She's in a lot of movies.
She's a lot of that time. She's completely ancillary in this movie where you can take her or leave her.
But both her and Mark McClure, who plays the older brother who played Jimmy Olsen in the Christopher Reeves Superman movies. I think they were both in Used Cars.
Yeah.
And then, funny enough, because we just mentioned like two Tom Hanks connections with Wendy Jo Sperber, Mark McClure has like a very small kind of cameo-ish part in That Thing You Do, which was Tom Hanks's writing and directorial debut.
Yeah.
So a lot of Tom Hanks connections with those two. But it's interesting it was interesting.
Well, that scene establishes so much.
But it's also interesting because as a young viewer in 1985, I would say majority of us, our generation, knew who they were, but didn't know who Crispin Glover and Leah Thompson were.
Yeah.
And maybe that's good because like we're seeing them in old makeup and then we're going to see them young. Maybe if we were very familiar with them, seeing them old in makeup would be...
look fake to us.
Would fake and take us out of the story.
That's how I almost look at it now. It's how much the movie's aged. You're kind of like, I could see.
But we had already seen Superman. We already knew he was Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah.
Like I said, we had already seen things like Bosom Buddies, and she was in a lot of movies in the 80s.
So that might be a conscious decision to cast them in a better likeness, so your eyes attracted to them to say, I know them from these movies because Superman was a blockbuster in those in the 80s. They had already done like 3 by that point. So if you're going to pick him right off the bat, you might not look at them as critical. And the two of them, and then you're not really seeing, because especially with George and Biff, they're in motion the entire time.
Yeah.
So you don't really get a good look at them. And then when at the dinner table, he's off watching The Honeymooner, so you're not even really getting a clear, full on. And you're only getting her, Leah Thompson, really, and it's just
and her
so
makeup's
sad.
Not as good as
it's not as forgiving now, but it's just not as good as Biff's or George's.
Yeah, or Christopher Lloyd's.
Yeah. But you really get the feeling in that scene that it's like, there's this other level of like unhappiness.
Yeah,
it's
very like it really sad. On this viewing particularly, like at those moments, like especially that one with Lorraine, like really hit a chord with me that I don't know if I've ever had it do so in the past. I mean, I think I've noticed when that he's not paying attention and she's telling the story, reminiscing. And which brings us to like another really important part of this movie, which, we've talked about in other podcasts, especially something like Terminator, which is like the way exposition is delivered.
Yes, that's very important in storytelling, we've learned.
And
in Terminator, it's exposition through action.
Yeah, it's like it's all during all the action scenes. So it's like you're getting the information, but you're not bored by it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the exposition, foreshadowing, all that kind of stuff is really well done in this movie.
Yeah, well, especially the clock tower stuff. I was noticing all that.
Oh, it's all like that's one of the things that I love about this script. Is I've said like this script is tight as a drum.
Yeah,
like it's so meticulously,
and I guess
everything is perfect
for people who don't realize the level. If you don't look at a movie that hardcore and you think about a script, it's tight in such a way where I guess everything you see on the screen is furthering the plot to a certain degree. There's no kind of...
It's all if it's not furthering the plot, it's providing information so that we're an educated audience.
Yeah.
So that when that moment comes up in the movie, we know what's going on.
Or there's
already.
setups and payoffs. There's tons of setups and payoffs in this movie.
Well, for
Gags.
instance, just the story of... Since we're on this scene, the story where Lorraine's talking about, she's reminiscing about her high school days, the enchantment under the sea dance. That's how she met. That's when her and George,
rhythmic ceremonial ritual.
and Linda, the sister, she's like, yeah, we heard like Grandpa hit him with the car, and that's how you fell in love. This is all stuff that is incredibly important information
that we're gonna later on we're gonna be familiar with.
Marty's life. Not even his life, his existence at all is all going to depend on this information that we're learning right now.
Yeah.
But in this moment, it's all like the nostalgia of a apparently alcoholic middle-aged woman who has a lot of regrets about her life.
And it's done in such a way where it's not boring because it's going... I mean, the scene isn't
because it
very
has
long.
a completely different meaning here.
Yeah.
It means something to us as an audience, and that it's, like I said, it's her... It's not just, her mom. We've heard this story a million times, but she's she's remembering her glory days.
Yeah, over looking in the glass of what is she drinking? Freaking vodka.
And then if we even go before that, the entire opening sequence, before we even see anything, we just hear Alan Silvestri's music and like a Steven Spielberg production. All of Doc's house is all telling us so much.
And that's interesting too, that shot, that really elaborate first take is almost too long in a sense where it's like, I wonder if they keep that today where you're going through everything.
Probably not.
But it's very much again like Tim Burton's opening to Pee Wee Herman when you have that Rube Goldberg kind of a setup, which is here. He has a Rube Goldberg setup to do everything in his house. But you learn with the clocks and all this.
Opening shots, all these clocks is telling us directly as an audience, and probably in most cases a subconscious level, that this movie's about time. And it's telling us that this character who lives here, who we're going to be introduced to later, is obsessed with time.
Yeah, and then when you pan past that or dolly past it, you go on the wall, you get learning about his mansion exploding.
His family, he once had family money, and that his house was destroyed.
Mysteriously caught fire and blew up or exploded. He sold it to a developer for a lot of money, the land that it was on. You pass Einstein.
He has a dog. We learn that he has a dog.
So that means he's a good guy. People, if you have a pet, you think then you have what on the wall.
That he's got
Einstein,
all these crazy gadgets, so he's some kind of inventor.
Yeah, he's got all these elaborate things just to open up. What is he? He's brewing coffee. He's turning the tea. He has a timer for the television to turn the news on. He's opening dog food.
The fact that the dog food bowl is full is telling us that he hasn't been there in a long time.
Yeah, or he's very dirty.
Like the dog hasn't eaten
out of that bowl.
Everything's automated, and so like there has been passage of time since he's been here, all the way to Marty getting in, kicking his skateboard back,
and we don't get to see him. We track him with his
feet, and then we see the skateboard goes back, and then it lands on a plutonium nuclear reactor,
which we just learned on the news.
So it's amazing.
Yeah,
this
and
movie.
I mean, I know it sounds like we're gushing over this, but if you could sit down and try to write a story, and those two scenes put that much backstory, exposition into you're hard pressed to throw that much facts in on that level without it being so overtly apparent.
Yeah,
clunky.
Yeah,
and boring, and making it be almost like Blake used to joke in movies when, because I quote Blake all the time, and my wife loves that. I'm like, well, you know what Blake used to say. When it gets too clunky,
I know, Dion.
Is that you get you just flash
the word exposition.
He knows what I'm going to say. So when it becomes clunky or kind of like noticeable, you should just flat exposition, like a little neon light. And in this movie, it's so layered in. It becomes, that's why we say it furthers it's being a perfect script.
It's noticeable to me on like the 50th viewing.
Yeah.
It sticks out, but for decades it didn't, and I think you hit on something for me. I think why I get so impressed with this kind of stuff, this movie in particular, because we're talking about it, but in other movies where, look, we're aspiring filmmakers. We've always have been. Maybe things didn't work out. Maybe we need a time machine of our own. I think that's why Rocky makes a big impact. Like we're
Gotta go back
we're
in
of a
time.
certain age, but like we've always wanted to do this. So when I see things like this, and it's like I never want to it's like on another level that like. It makes me think like maybe I couldn't do this.
No, but I think it also has a level of there's so many people helping you out. It's not just one person.
But still, it's
not like see our experience is us doing a solitary film, with
completely alone with like two people helping us on camera
while we're being in a very competitive area where we could get kicked out of school if they don't like it. So
but that opening scene, next great piece of exposition for me is during the whole Einstein scene. And Doc Brown is about to leave on his journy. And he's like...
At the mall.
When they're in the mall parking lot. And he's like, I forgot to bring extra plutonium. If I go and I don't have enough to get back, I will be trapped where I'm going.
Yeah. Wink, wink.
But it's done in a way, at least as a kid. I mean, I don't know if I saw it for the first time.
It didn't even occur to you.
Now you watch it like, that's for us as an audience to know that when Marty goes back in time in 3 minutes, he's not going to be able to get back to the present.
It creates a conflict that we're going to use later on.
There's all this, the clock tower, like you said, like help the clock tower.
I mean, even the subtlety. Something I wanted to touch on too that really hammered home for me in this movie, which we always talk about on the podcast because of our age group of us reminiscing, sadly, almost doing like saloon songs about the ballad of the video store, how it's gone away.
It's 2:45.
Yeah, and there's no one in the place except Blake and me. I'm renting a tape, Joe. Hey, don't you know? It's gonna be a new release. I want one for myself.
It's the deal. It's
and one for Blake.
Well, about two for one deal that night.
2 for 1. I got a coupon.
Give me one for tonight and another one
for tomorrow. I know what you're gonna say. Please keep the tape. Rewind. Oh, sorry. But we were always singing the song of the ballad of the forgotten video store. People who are 10 years older than us, who we share a lot of common things with cinema of Star Wars and 70s cinema and 60s cinema. They went through the ballad of the end of the theater chain. Yeah. And it's very evident in this movie where I saw that growing up in big cities like New Haven and stuff where, when we grew up in the 80s, there was all these relics of these once lavish movie theaters that were now just that turned into, so you have at the beginning in Hillsdale, you'll see like the one of the theaters in town. It's a porn theater now. But when he goes back in time, you have Reagan and Barbara Stanwyck in the Western Battle Queen of Montana. It's like, so that's another sub-genre that doesn't get talked about a lot, where it's like there used to be theaters on every block for people to go see movies. And then when movies got more accessible with television and the video store, the advent of being able to take the product home with you and watch it at home, all these theaters were like, they became second-run picture houses, and then they had to resort to playing porn or something because they had to get people in. And then by the 80s, they were just getting closed, and they sat there hollow for years, and they were just demolished, and a parking lot was put up. So I love that aspect of coming around, getting back onto the road.
Well, you're not just seeing like the effect of time on George and Lorraine.
Yeah, you're seeing it on this beautiful town. Yeah, you have the old Texaco. You see like the Bank of America's falling apart. A lot of us see the once beautiful Art Deco is now kind of rotting.
Which was once the town's beautiful town square with a monument to World War II is now an empty parking lot.
Yeah, and I never noticed that until this viewing, where at the beginning it didn't occur to me as out of place when he does his little montage on the skateboard that it's a parking lot. It just seems normal. Yeah. Oh, it's a parking lot. But then when they go back in time, I always knew that there was a green there, but it made me think, oh, wait a minute, there's not enough room. Oh, they've paved the whole little town square because people have cars, you need parking. So yeah, I don't know if in the future if they've gotten rid of the monument or they've just put it in the center of a parking lot now, and it's stupid. But like it's all about that, and then you hear even the mayor, you have Goldie. what's his face, the black guy in the 80s, you know, Goldie Wilson or something wanting to be mayor, and he's saying stuff. And then when you go back in time and they have Red Wilson or try to be mayor, he's saying stuff that's in the 50s. I'm going to lower your taxes. I'm going to bring, you know, urban renewal, economic progress. I'm going to help, you know, bring the, you know, suburbanization. Yeah. And that's with all this lavish stuff and then you see the product in the 80s.
The corner diner from the 50s. It's like an aerobic studio in the 80s.
You know, it's just even like the subplots, like there's so many payoffs, setups and payoffs where you see the African American mayor running for mayor in the 80s, and he's the guy in the 50s who's the janitor, and then McFly says to him, you know, maybe you're going to be mayor. He's like, yeah, I'll run for mayor.
Mayor Goldie Wilson.
That's a great idea. Yeah, so it's like there's every scene, even in the background, you could see jokes of stuff paying off. Like they're playing Mr. Sandman, but then there's a in the music window there's like an ad for the original group. I forget what, like the Cornets or whoever they were. It's just there's so much around. And then especially for people who grew up in the era, I'm sure this is just like it's like people for our age watching Ready Player One. There's so many I'm going to call those freaking Easter eggs. Of all this, the Davy Crockett influence. Davy Crockett's that was a huge craze in the 50s with the coonskin caps.
You see it advertised at the record store, and then when he walks into the diner, it's playing on the jukebox.
And then when he's over the house and they're watching the honeymooners over Leah Thompson's house when she's the little kid's wearing a coonskin cap. Yeah. So it's very much the pervasiveness of the era. It's just so well done to show the disconnect of 80s to 50s, beautiful, almost too much beautiful, and then just
and even the way
rotting of
even
the 80s.
The way Cundy, who of course has been on the show in previous,
he's come over this, he's slept over so many times.
John Carpenter,
he's the cinematographer, Dean Cundy.
He
did Jurassic Park. He did a lot of Spielberg stuff, didn't he?
Yeah, he did Jurassic Park for sure. But
did Escape from New York?
He did Halloween, Escape from New York,
The Thing,
The Fog, I think.
Yeah,
Halloween 2. Which we did on the show.
Did he do Starman?
He might have done the third one. I don't know. At some point, he didn't do. I don't think he did Big Trouble in Little China. So right around then is when him and Carpenter had kind of.
Did he do Christine?
Following out. He might have not done Christine.
Okay. When he gets friends with Spielberg and he starts doing Spielberg-related movies.
Yeah, and he
through Jurassic Park.
But if you notice, I mean, it's very subtle. But if you notice, like the present day of the 80s, the lights are a little bit more harsh. The image is a little more crisp.
A little more
the colors are a little more realistic. But then everything in the shot in the 50s it's just a touch warmer. Everything's just a little bit. The lighting is just a little bit softer, not as harsh, like shadows and stuff. It's just like it's a subliminal way of telling the audience, like, this is almost like a dream.
Like
even because Marty's expression, he even
like a golden age.
His initial thought is like, I must be dreaming.
Oh, when he wakes up in his mom's,
but everything is kind of, and then but also it's like that's how, he's playing. They're playing to the memories of the older audience that might have grown up in the 50s.
Yeah,
of like. For them it's nostalgia, and it's almost like great memories, this idea of everything just being a little fuzzy, a little bit warm. It's just like it's like it's a different time and a more innocent time,
and that's something too that's been taken in, I wouldn't say exploited, but used quite a lot from the 80s into the 90s up until probably even that movie Pleasantville, like with that sub theme of going back to even like with something that's on the podcast with us, like what's the Fred Decker movie?
Night of the Creeps?
Yeah, Night of the Creeps has an element of that at the beginning, you know what I mean? So you have that kind of...
talked about like this idea of 50s nostalgia.
Yeah, and
probably starting with our Grease episode.
I think even before, because we talked about it in Monster Squad.
I know we talk about it a lot, very specifically. Yeah. We talk about like Happy Days and how like in the late 70s, and then
people were
and then in the 80s, things like The Thing, The Fly, The Blob, all these 50s sci-fi horror
Invasion
movies
from Mars,
in the 80s. How it's like kind of cyclical in
a
way, and how it makes sense that now a lot of the 80s material is being remade.
We bring
because it's every 30 years.
Yeah, it kind of turns on itself.
The kids, the kids that grew up in that era are now old enough to be able to make those movies.
And be nostalgic for it, you know. So like in the 50s,
like
you had a lot
Creepshow.
of 30s stuff. Yeah, exactly. Creepshow's a love letter to EC
which
Comics.
we'll get to at some point.
Yeah, and there's a little homage here to EC Comics, which ends up Zemeckis is one of the executive producers to Tales from the Crypt, the HBO TV show.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did the Monster Squad cast, and we were talking about at the time, us growing up, people of that era knew without a doubt who all the Universal monsters were, even though because they were just so the Americana,
icons.
and there was a resurgence of that in the 80s as of why we just talked about, because people were reminiscent about it. So it's very weird for me because I took it one step further, and I love, like, there's a line in here when they're doing the Ronald Reagan jokes that I find hilarious. They do a Jack Benny joke, and I didn't know who Jack Benny was back then, but I laughed out loud with you now because I get it. They go, "What is Jack Benny, the Secretary of Treasury?" And his shtick, Jack Benny's, was that he was a tightwad, he was a miser. And it's just so funny. And to me, he's one of the 5 funniest people of all time, in my personal opinion. So it's like there's so many great nuanced jokes in this that just get, they're just so. I mean, it's just so funny with the whole Ronald Reagan thing, because in the 80s, and people. Whatever your political divide is in the 80s, people will, not like Reagan, you like Reagan. But they did this in such a fun-loving way where it's like, it's funny where he's like, the picture actor, and then he says, like, then when he sees the video, the camcorder, he's like, "Of course you need an actor to be your president. He's going to be on TV." Like he's been trying to justify it. Or he says Jane Wyman, who I think was Reagan's first wife before Nancy Reagan, and it's like all these different jokes, and then or even
in a way he's right, because they say that it's a big television is a big reason why. Like Kennedy beat Nixon.
Oh, absolutely. In 1959, they had there was a debate, and it was the first televised debate on television, and Kennedy wasn't feeling well, but his Dr. Feel-Good Doctor gave him a shot of whatever he was on.
He had an illness.
Yeah, and he's on, like, not meth, but he's on an upper, and he got a bunch of makeup, and Nixon at the time.
I also say, like, whatever illness he had, kind of
flared up.
Well, it created your complexion looked darker, so it always looked like he was tan.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like he was tan. It was just that, like, the illness he had always made him look like
he looked kind of good. Yeah, and they put powder on him so he didn't shine under those heavy lights. And you have Nixon, who was sick at the time, come on. And Nixon, if you listen to it on the radio, they classically said you thought Nixon won. But if you watched it, Nixon looked sweaty. I mean, the old lights are hot, so he's on there, and then he's sweating balls. He's an older looking guy. To this guy, Kennedy's good looking. He looks great. Really that exemplified the era of what the possibility of television will be like. People, I mean, nowadays you see people who go on, people don't want makeup, and it's like, I understand people don't want to be dolled up, but you at least need some sort of powder, because if you go on, you're going to look pale or dead to the people who do have some makeup on.
Me and Dion aren't even filming this, and we put makeup on.
Yeah, we do it all the time. I mean, why Blake insists I have to have these lashes? I don't understand. I don't know what the hell is going on. And
this is really nice foundation and nice eyelashes.
And he wants, like, apple candy red lipstick for me to wear. So it's television. And then to further that along, before we leave that, it really sank into me where, like, Doc Brown's like romancing over the camcorder, and he goes, "Wow," he says, a portable television studio." And to think about in the 50s, he's right.
Well, yeah.
Do you think about how much it took?
I mean, and he's an inventor,
like
a scientist.
You think about in life, we always invent something huge. A computer is as big as a room.
Yeah.
And then nowadays we have computers in our phone.
It's on our phone.
There's more technology. It took less technology to get to the moon than in our phones. You know what I mean?
It took like the computing power. They'd say it took like the computing power of like a hand, calculator from the 80s.
Like a Texas Instrument.
To send somebody to
the moon in the 60s. So it's amazing. So we always downsize it and make it portable, compatible, very small. So for him to think of how much lighting, cameras, the bulkiness to get something on television in the old days, and then he's looking at this camcorder, and then it's funny too, because when he's able to jimmy rig it to the TV to watch it, when I was young, because I was like the camcorder kid, when my parents got the camcorder, I was like, I'm gonna learn how to use it. So like I always know how to work it and hook it up to the back of the TV to show him what we did. So I always thought that too, like, how is he hooking it? Because when we were very little, we had an old TV at my parents' bedroom that I was
the converter.
Yeah, right? Because the older TVs, especially the black and whites, when say if you were hooking up your Atari, they weren't coaxial. They had like almost I don't know the technical name for it, but it's like the two screws.
Yeah, that you would hook the antenna to.
Yeah,
the UHF antenna would.
Yeah, and you'd put the tabs in and you screw it to hold it down, and then you'd have to buy a converter to convert to your Atari, or you have to. I remember my dad buying like a switcher to put in back of the cabinet model, so that if I wanted to play Atari, I'd switch that sucker over from cable to the aux. Yeah, and the TV's like. And you can hear it's like when you turn an amp on, you're like, and all the lights low. It's like gaslight. All the lights get lower, We're gonna see some serious shit. And then you're about to hit power on the Atari, and then everything you lose. The power goes out in the house. Great Scott! You turn it to Darren McGavin downstairs trying to turn the power back on. But it's like it reminds me of all this. That like this bygone era. And it's really weird because me taking the train in to see you today, I was on the train thinking about all this, and it's just like, all our memories from the 80s of that analog, non-digital era, people younger than us now, just like we of older eras, they have no knowledge of. They grew up in the computerized.
I'm getting to that point.
Digital era.
Get like an old person, and that's because like I communicate with people in their 20s on social media. They're part of like the film community on Twitter that we try to promote the show to, and other podcasts.
And you have a podcast that you try to promote, and you have a book out.
Yeah, so it's like you try to be active, and you see
Blake isn't just trolling people on Who Wants to Be a Predator.
No, we're just you chat films, you share pictures, blah blah blah, you retweet things, and but movie posters and whatnot. But I do see like a lot of these people, and I'm now getting to that age, that I'm sure our parent, you always hear that stereotype of like, when I was a kid, music, blah blah blah. And at the point, like just the other day, like last week, I was like, remember, I even tweeted it because I was like, remember, VHS bootlegs of Japanese laser discs.
Yeah. And they were like $40-$50 you can get for that thing.
At like a horror convention or at a comic book store or something. Because, I was reading some thing on Facebook. Somebody was complaining about like the Blu-ray transfer of the Stendhal syndrome.
The Dario
Argento movie. And they were complaining of like how bad the Blu-ray looked. And I was like, and everybody's like, yeah, my first version was like the Troma DVD, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, my first version was, a VHS bootleg of a Japanese Laserdisc that I bought with you
in a chat room
at the Fangoria convention at
you
the
and
New
I,
York hotel, and I remember we sat in your apartment dorm room, when the year after you and I lived together, we sat there and we watched it, and it was all like, not blurry, but generational problems, and like the contrast was all
maybe
weird,
the ratio was off.
See what was happening.
Yeah, I remember that,
and I was like, I feel like there's like not to equate it to something like really serious, but there is a little bit of. You hear like, like a civil rights movement of like certain generations had to go through hell so that this generation can have the ability to even complain about it.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I had this bit of this like pride of like, our generation struggled so that these kids can have the right to complain about artifacts on their Blu-ray.
It is. You make an extreme analogy, but I understand. Yeah, where you see people.
I'm not really equating it to that, but like this idea of that
doing it for comedic purposes.
Certain generations
had to really. Well, even like I thought of it on the train coming in here. I was thinking like, well, you look at like our parents growing up in an era where they were, for the most part, our age group, our parents are like kind of the baby boomers.
Yeah.
So they were born post-World War II, post-war. They were the first kids that got to probably go to college, like,
which
in big
are
numbers.
the teenagers we're talking about right now.
In this movie, in 1955. So it's like, my dad in 1955 was 8. My mom was 5. So it's like, to think about them growing up, they didn't know the hardship of their parents because their parents, they grew up in the Depression, the Dust Bowl. They grew up, having to go to war. And a lot of people will talk about, as the baby boomers got older and they were comfortable, that's when they started like, hating their parents and having all these, then they, getting into politics and all this kind of stuff where some would say their parents didn't have that luxury because they were just trying to survive and live with malnutrition and, bread lines and stuff like that, so it's like, these are things that people didn't have to deal with, and they may not have a grasp of. So we may not know the hardships our parents went through, and as people younger than us may not see. I mean, it's definitely completely compartmentalized to something completely different, where we're just talking about VHS.
Oh, yeah. I'm saying it in a comic purpose, but
but there's
a
so
little bit
true
of
where
truth
people
to
could
it.
talk
But
about.
I mean, look, it's like first world problems, as they say.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. But if you look at us, like you and I grew up we were music lovers, going to get bootlegs. I used to remember, I'd pay $30 for a Doors cassette tape.
I know, $45.
For a shitty. It's not even like it's a brand name. It's somebody burnt it in the back room themselves, took a Xerox machine, Xeroxed and cut out of cover.
Because there was a time where you could even before CDRs.
And this is before the internet.
You could get like a silver-backed, like professionally duplicated CD, but it's
one of those gold CDs.
But
it's
it's it's an audience recording of some guy with not even a microphone, but one of the old style
like
tape recorder sitting in the back of the club,
under his trench coat,
so you barely hear. Rerun style.
Blake has a rerun. He's with the Nagra bootleg and the Doobie Brothers and what's happening. But Blake has a bootleg that I was interested in, where he has Billy Joel live at Toad's place in New Haven, and the quality of these old bootlegs is so bad. Like Billy Joel's on stage doing a sound check, and he's playing like When the Music's Over, People Are Strange. He's doing like Doors selections.
Yeah, Billy Joel never would do Billy Joel songs at sound checks.
So he
always just do like rock songs.
So I'm a huge Doors fan, so Blake's, hey, you want to listen to this? So it's him just up there doing sound checks of like, People Are Strange, When the Music's Over, whatever else. But you're hearing, since the mic is near this table, you're hearing these people on their first date talking over, like, so what do you like to do? Well,
like somebody on the phone or
it's like, and it's just so funny to think that like that we had to deal with that. Now, I mean, it's like, look at porn. You know what I mean? We've been talking as of late of how hard it used to be, to find a Playboy, let alone find a video. Or now you can just Google like, mom fucks her son. It's like, it's like the possibilities.
Tying it all back to Back to the Future.
Possibilities are endless on what you can do on, you could check out on these things. It's amazing.
But anyway.
Getting back, so we're talking about
the other interesting thing.
Oh, the parking lot at the beginning, and, setting up the time frame.
But the other thing I thought was really interesting and really effective is we find out, Doc says to Marty, but you kind of hinted at, he's when this baby hurts 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some shit.
There's some lines in this that used to get. I remember in the theater that getting a laugh. Like that was.
There's a lot of funny lines.
That line, that was a classic. I wouldn't say it's as big as like "Make Your Day" or "I'll Be Back in the 80s," but that was a big line. When this gets to 80, you're going to see some, and that's maybe the first swear or noticeable swear in the movie. And that's like, that was funny at the end of the movie where roads, where we're going. I mean, that was so much so that Reagan quoted it in like an address. You know what I mean?
But he's telling us right there that when he hits 88 miles per hour, it's going to go back. We're going to see some shit.
Yeah.
So then when Marty's driving around trying to get away from the Libyans, and we keep on cutting to the speedometer and how it's just about to hit 80, and then he turns, and then it goes back over. All this beautiful suspense.
Yeah.
It's all, I guess what aside from like the screenplay, this movie, and it's a big testament to Zemeckis in that it feels so Spielbergian, in that few directors, in my opinion, understand and can translate for an audience like the language of cinema as well as Spielberg does. I mean, and once we start actually, we might do a Spielberg movie coming up, and I have specific scenes in that movie that I laugh because they're so perfect.
Yeah.
That this isn't one of those, it's just like when you see something, it's like, that is the way you would do it. Of course.
Yeah.
Like there's no better
we've
way.
We've already established that Blake laughs at things when he's either nervous or whatever.
This movie is a perfect example. Zemeckis' understanding of the language of cinema in this movie is so on point. Like that's one. Like, look, that's something that doesn't advance the story easily. Somebody could not have thought of that instance, but to say like, we know it takes us to 88 miles per hour. We're going to add just a little bit of a little cherry on top of this. Just a little bit of suspense of like, he's about to get to 88 minutes, and then he doesn't get because he turns.
Yeah.
Just beautiful. This movie's so beautifully executed.
And there's a lot of like ad libs in this. I mean, they said Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd would ad lib a lot in this. Biff would ad lib a lot in this. So who knows? Some of this stuff could have come out of a rehearsal. I guess before we get too far along, this is something that I remember that was notorious that we should probably touch on is the Eric Stoltz. There's a whole. We got a little ahead of it, but they wanted Michael J. Fox, who to me never seems. He's a weird lad to me because he never looks too young and he never looks too old. Yeah. So I can never tell his age. Yeah. So I don't know how old he is here because to me, he looks the same age as he does here as he does in Spin City. Now when I see him like recently when he's, he has Parkinson's and stuff.
But he's also,
he looks older.
Age,
yeah, exactly. But there was like 20, in the 80s and 90s, he looked all the same age.
He's like
to me.
21, 22, maybe 23 tops
when
they filmed this movie.
Because when you see the interviews at the time and he's talking about like, that he knew how to skateboard and he was looking for girls and this is what attracted him to the script because he did all that. I was like, where's he getting all this time? He's going to high school, he's skateboarding, he's doing by day, he's doing family ties at night. It's like, where the hell is he getting the time?
I also wonder, like, a lot of these stories are obviously in hindsight. So I always wonder, like, how true is it that, like, they really wanted Michael J. Fox, but he couldn't do it. Because of family ties.
They want him for this. They think he's perfect, but he can't do it because he's shooting Family Ties, and Family Ties is a huge hit. And one of the cast was out on maternity leave, so they're like, you can't have him have another. Write him out of episodes because he's the hit of the show. So they go and they cast Eric Stoltz, and Eric Stoltz, they shoot like 9 weeks with Eric Stoltz. And I remember this being notorious because when you and I were little, no footage ever been released of it. Yeah. And you would be hard pressed. You might see a still. And I remember there's a still that it's like them on the driveway at the end of the movie, maybe, and it's a black and white.
I know
still.
there's a popular one of him and Lorraine. He's in bed. Yeah, and Lorraine sits next to him in bed. There's a shot of that. You see some of these things.
So they cast Stoltz, and Stoltz does about 9 weeks of the movie with the entire cast, and they hire what's her face, Claudia Wells to play Jennifer.
Well, not originally. There was someone else in that part.
But then they were interested in her, but then they said no to her because
it was apparently, obviously this is all.
Oh no, you know what?
She got a pilot for a television show. Yeah, apparently.
So she got a pilot.
She had auditioned for things like Sherlock, Young Sherlock Holmes,
all the Amblin stuff.
Yeah, she had auditioned for all these things, and so the story goes. We can't.
That's out of her mouth. She got the pilot.
Yeah, but we don't know why they didn't cast her originally. And then we're going for it. So my point is like there's
so much conjecture.
Yeah. But apparently the story, she got a pilot, and then they were going to pick up the show.
So she couldn't do it.
She couldn't do it. So they ended up casting.
And then she does 6 episodes of that pilot, and that pilot dies. So they ended up casting somebody else.
So
opposite of.
Apparently, according to Wikipedia, which again, hearsay, Melora Hardin, who on this show has only popped up, and I believe in one instance, in that she's the club singer in The Rocketeer when they go to Neville Sinclair's club. The Enchantment Under the Sea Club.
Yeah,
what's the name of that club?
She's singing with Marvin in the Starlighters.
She's the singer in that, and she's popped up actually.
Yeah, I remember the scene
probably
quite well.
In more things on television stuff now.
So supposedly didn't she have a relationship with Eric Stoltz of some sort of?
Well, what they say is when they recast Eric Stoltz, she was now too tall. This was the explanation she got.
So they cast her in the movie
as Jennifer.
Yeah, and then we'll get to what happens to Eric Stoltz. But then they recast Eric Stoltz with Michael J. Fox, and then there's the issue of
they didn't think Eric Stoltz apparently comedically didn't have the timing.
Well, because he was doing it supposedly as a dramatic role. He was acting it out dramatically.
And also, if you look at the pictures,
I don't think he knew.
If you look at the stills and stuff. Like, I feel like when they also used recasting Eric Stoltz to change and as an excuse to change other things. Because if you look at Eric Stoltz's pictures and stuff, he's dressed really like hip 80s.
Yeah.
Which Michael J. Fox's Marty McFly isn't.
Yeah.
Like like his jean jacket is a little bit 80s.
They one of the big things that what's his face? Bob Gale, is he the
writer?
The writer in Zemeckis' site is as great as an actor Stoltz is. They say one that he was playing it in a dramatic way, but two, he didn't understand what say Michael J. Fox would which is in the realm of comedy. Michael J. Fox would make the joke be his reaction. The punchline is his reaction to the situation, which Stoltz wasn't really doing. Stoltz, to me, sounded like he was doing more of a straight role. Where
and
it's
I love
like,
Stoltz.
Yeah, he's freaking amazing. So they shoot that much of him, and they were even going to, the guy who plays number 2 in Biff's gang, not Billy Zane, but they were going to cast him as the lead as Biff, but he didn't look intimidating to Eric Stoltz, but had Michael J. Fox been originally cast like they wanted to, he might have played Biff.
Size-wise.
Yeah.
And apparently, so when they decided that they were going to recast Stoltz,
and which was mutually agreed, Stoltz, because he called Peter Bogdanovich in a phone call and said, like, I don't know what I'm doing here.
I think I'm right for this.
Yeah, so everybody, it was amicable. It wasn't like, there's a story of them shooting with Harvey Keitel on Apocalypse Now. They shot like a week as him in the Martin Sheen role, and then they had to, I don't know if that was mutual but this seems to be...
Yeah.
You know, they're like, oh, good. He's like, oh, thank you. I don't know, but he probably got a full salary.
And apparently, supposedly, Melora Hardin they never even got around to shooting any of Jennifer stuff.
They shot us. They took a couple stills.
And then they realized that she's going to be way too tall to play opposite Michael J. Fox, which happens a lot. There's a lot of there's acting jobs where, it'll say in the ad, don't apply to this if you're not 5'9" or taller, or if you're taller than that. It's really, this is things that really get considered,
especially if your star is a short guy.
So what happens is, I don't want to get too much into the minutia of this stuff, just because I feel like there's a lot. But so they ended up recasting with Michael J. Fox, who really wanted to do it, and he's filming. Family Matters, Family
Ties. Yes, he's Urkel on Family Matters
all day, and then shooting, at night, all the
crazy
interiors and night stuff at night.
And then on the weekends, he's shooting the exterior. So his day is he's waking up, going to Family Ties, shooting Family Ties all day, getting into a car, being shuffled to the set, doing exteriors, and he said he's getting a turnaround of 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, and getting woken up, thrown in a shower, and he did that for what he said, a couple months. And you could do that while you're young, but when I try to do that now,
I say now, people will be offer me jobs, you can work at night, and work a night editing job during the day and make really good money. I'm I'm too old for that shit.
Yeah. And it really puts it in perspective people who have they're single parents.
Yeah, sure.
And trying to and they have to do multiple, just thinking or these people who are putting themselves through college.
Just a little side location shooting stuff. I believe I might have even talked about it in an episode. I don't know which episode, but back in, I think, August, on one of my trips to California, I took a day and I walked all around South Pasadena looking for Halloween filming locations.
Yeah, which we ended up talking about, I thought, in the side cast you and I did. Maybe that was your first trip to LA.
I think we did one for my first trip. But I walked all around, and apparently, which I saw, I went and I looked around. You see a lot of Halloween is shot in South Pasadena. Not the ending, but a lot of the other stuff. And basically in that same neighborhood, maybe a half mile away, I walked over and I found Lorraine's house, which coincidentally is also Michael J. Fox's house in Teen Wolf.
Wow.
It's the same house. Literally 2 doors down from Lorraine's house is the house that they use as the exterior for George's house. And then 2 doors down in the opposite direction is Biff's house from the second movie.
Wow. So it's all, because it looks very 50s-esque.
So you the tree, that street where he falls into the street and he gets hit, and Michael J. Fox gets hit by the car. That's all in South Pasadena, and I walked around and saw all those houses.
It's weird for me because you think about me growing up looking at especially that house, and then George McFly growing up, his house, that style to me always look, aside from what you see on the back lots in TV shows like Dennis the Menace or the Donna Reed show, those look very 50s to me.
Yeah.
So every time I'd see those kind of style houses in the neighborhood I live in now, or where my parents live, it's I have that it's very 50s, Back to the Future,
One thing I want to talk about is, because it's something that I still don't quite understand, and it doesn't bother me, never did, is the relationship of Marty and Doc.
Well, you know what? Right before we leave, I think it should be worth mentioning that there was a lot of what-ifs to play Marty. John Cusack, C. Thomas Howell supposedly was cast, and then they let go because they got Eric Stoltz or somebody. But supposedly they offered the role to Ralph Macchio, and he declined because he thought it'd be silly. It was a silly idea. And that would have been amazing. You think of a major what if you had like Dudley Moore, who was thought of as Doc Brown, or John Lithgow, whichever way you go.
Whatever you want to go with
And,
it.
we always talk about these epic what ifs. If you had like freaking a Ralph Macchio as Marty McFly and John Lithgow as, they should do a poster. That would be great to see these what if posters, of all the different what ifs here. But that would have, because, at the time he's coming off of 84, Macchio's Karate Kid. He's the biggest thing in the, what year is Crossroads?
Oh.
86 maybe?
Probably 86, yeah.
So maybe he turned it down to do Crossroads or something, but it's like if he did Back to the Future, because he did The Outsiders too, which is 85, I bet you.
Yeah.
Maybe.
With C. Thomas Howell.
And there's a whole everybody in the phone books in that movie, so it's like maybe...
it's interesting because sometimes we play this what if game and I'm always like, yeah, that would be an interesting movie. Like, it would be different, but I could see it being good. This movie, like, I feel like this movie's so perfect.
Yeah,
in its casting.
It's bastardization.
That it was like, I can't even fathom like having anybody else play these parts.
Yeah, or James Woods, they said was as considered as Doc. It's like, can you imagine? I mean, you think of it, you're like, I guess look wise, like especially with John Lithgow, you could see the eye, very crazy.
You could see John. I could see John Lithgow.
Would it be this? I mean, in '85, he's doing Christmas, Santa Claus the movie, which we did on this cast. So that's what he's doing at the time. So
yeah. And I don't remember, maybe 87 was...
Or 86 is Harry and the Hendersons. Yeah, so he's doing that. So, it's very well. But the relationship between Marty and Doc Brown...
Because this is a kind of a relationship that I don't think you would see in a movie.
Well, they had to justify... and I always forget that. How does Marty know Doc?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And they justified at the beginning is that I guess he went to get Doc to make him the biggest amp ever.
Yeah, but even that's kind of
silly, But it shows that, it's the 80s
I always
guitar.
wonder, you could maybe argue that he walks Einstein.
Maybe, yeah.
Because he walks in and he's like, "Hey, Einstein." But you don't. That's a far. That's a leap. I'm just throwing it out there.
And he's concerned about Einstein a couple times in the movie.
Like you wonder, maybe he was hired to. Maybe he walks Einstein. That's how he knows Doc. It
wasn't like Doc was. Yeah, you can't see Doc putting you need your guitar done or like he is in high school.
It's this weird relationship of older than middle age man. And a teenage boy, it's just something that unfortunately, because of
nowadays
stigma, you would never see a relationship like that in a movie.
No, it would have to turn.
Not
into
that
some
there's
sort of
anything
wrong with it.
Torrid about it.
No, but
just
they would
the
turn
fact
it.
That
the implications
a
would be
60-year-old guy would be just friends.
Yeah,
it
would turn into
you don't even get the sense that they're neighbors.
No,
it'd be one thing if it's I grew up next door. When I was little. In Philadelphia, before we moved to Albany, when I was really little, we lived next door to this older couple, Bob and Jean.
Oh, I remember Bob and Jean. It's like me with Lily and her husband, Lily and Charlie. When I went to the
Bob
movies
was an older guy. He was missing a finger, and he had a tattoo because he was in the Navy when he was young.
As you do. And I bet you it was that tattoo that it's kind of faded, so it's like that weird green.
Yeah,
and
it's like a bluish green.
And he can make it dance if he moved that for him.
And Bob was old, and Bob actually passed away even when I was little. But Bob used to be out there trying to. My mom was a single mom.
Yeah,
and so Bob would be out there holding the back of my bicycle,
taking interest,
trying to help me learn how to ride a bike.
You want to make me cry again? You're on your way.
And Bob and Jean were the grandparents of Kathy Joe, who was my best friend in that neighborhood, and who lived 4 doors down.
Yeah, okay,
but right next door was Bob and Jean.
Yeah,
but
there's.
So I guess if Bob didn't pass away, and I lived in that house until I was a teenager.
And he was an inventor.
I would have a relationship with Bob and Jean. I would probably go over and help Bob clean out his gutters or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but you don't even get the sense that Doc Brown is Marty's next door.
Well, it's we don't have time for it. They just have to get going. There's an amp, and there's some. They don't tell you the relationship of how it was sparked, but they give you the connection by.
It's there and you buy it and it works.
And I guess he must have
chemistry is good together.
You would think that Marty must have gave Doc money for it. So it's
I guess
Doc
needs, that's I never
because you can't see. I don't see.
I never
Doc
made
needing,
the connection that Marty had him build it. Or to me, it was always they were friends, and so
Doc
he built it.
Yeah.
So he built it for
right,
Marty.
Because I can't see Doc looking to get side jobs for money. Because Doc seems to be too eccentric to be. He's only concentrating on this his time travel, his theories and stuff like that.
I do want to get to some of the stuff that I was kind of hinting at earlier with like the script.
Yeah.
And how it doesn't necessarily play into like the typical dramatic structure of narrative. And that, one of the things that we learned, and I'm not saying it's the right thing, but it's one of the things that's common in storytelling, especially in 3-act storytelling. And so it's one of those things that when you go to school for cinematic storytelling, or probably even playwriting, creative writing, you learn these things as tools. Now, one of those tools that you learn is that your main character, your protagonist, has an arc, and that they either have they have a need, or in some way from the
basic levels,
from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, they change in some way, and that's
the journey
that's like the hero's journey, which we talk about is something completely different. But this idea of that, like, if we were to say Star Wars, which is where we talk about the hero's journey a lot, it's Luke goes from
farm boy
to being like the intergalactic hero, and learning the Force and learning about his history.
He longs for something more, and and then he gets caught up in his adventure,
and he learns. And he becomes a hero.
They present that as being supposedly the quote unquote most successful or gratifying way of presenting a story in this medium.
And we talk about that arc in Last Starfighter, and we talk about that
very recently too. We brought that up.
We did bring that up recently
with the maybe Total Recall, because we're talking about how even Schwarzenegger's character, he's longing Beauty and the Beast. More than this simple life. And here,
but for instance, like when we went to film school in the late 90s, right at the turn of the century,
right at the turn when everything was going from analog to digital.
But so like Pulp Fiction was still big and talked about when we went to film school, and so we talked about Pulp Fiction and putting it in. And I remember we had this discussion of like, because there are so many characters and almost vignettes in Pulp Fiction, structurally the movie is very unique, especially for the time. But like, if we were going to apply the structure, like, who's the main character of Pulp Fiction? And I remember we had this discussion that Samuel Jackson's Jules, is that his name?
Yeah, I think so.
He has to be the protagonist because he's the only one that changes from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's huge,
theoretically, the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie are the same scene, but his arc, he's the only one that has an arc.
Because once you learn this theory of how to do the 3-act structure, then you could turn it on its toes like they do in Pulp Fiction, or Quentin Tarantino likes to do in his movies. And then that would be, sometimes people would say that the whole point of the movie is the guy doesn't change. I remember we're talking about Spielberg when we were in film school, when Saving Private Ryan came up. People were knocking that like, Tom Hanks' character doesn't change in the movie, and it's stupid, and Spielberg's full of shit because he's overrated. And it's like, what are you talking about?
Well, we're talking in general terms.
Yeah.
And so what I find interesting about this movie is that, like,
I had written down as a note, I wanted to ask you, not that I'm like quizzing you, but I was going to say, what is your opinion of, if we were going to lay the acts in, where the first act, I was trying to think about, maybe traditionally the first act would end when he goes back in time.
Yeah, I would say.
And he wakes up like after the Peabody's Twin Pine, Single Pine.
He's in. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It's a farm. Yeah, like that's
when he leaves. That's like the end of Act 1, and then he wakes when he maybe the beginning of Act 2 is when he's driving down the dirt road. And
you could even say
when he finds the development
back. Yeah,
and his car conks out. He's
Act
hide
2
the car.
Is like he hides the car.
Yeah, and then he
walks into the
50s,
into the town square. Yeah, definitely.
And then what Act 2 would end maybe with the climax of, could it be?
I would say
maybe Under the Sea dance, or
I would say probably the good turning point for me, if you were quizzing me, I would say when George lays out Biff.
Yeah, right there.
That's like our big. That's now we're now. It's a whole other, we're getting to the third act.
So would it be even technically like when he says goodbye to them on the stairs about the carpet? Maybe that would be the end of, you know what I mean? Like after the excess?
I mean, you could say that. I would say it probably starts before that.
Yeah.
It would be like I would include like the Johnny B. Good and all that stuff. But what I find interesting is, like, we see evidence that maybe Marty learns something by the end of the movie. Maybe Marty changes, but we never actually see any proof of it. Like, you could say we see brilliant foreshadowing. We see that Marty in the beginning of the movie wants to be a rock and roll player, but now because he can't even get the school dance, he has like, maybe I'm not any good at this.
Oh yeah, Huey
There's
Lewis tells him
self-doubt.
no. Yeah.
So that when he's like when George is like, oh, I'm write science fiction stories, and he's like, get out of town.
Yeah,
I
let me
never knew you were
read some.
creative. And he's
Yeah.
like, well, I'll be afraid that somebody would reject them. And he's like, no, I get that. We see Marty.
It's father to son. The
He's
sins of the father. Yeah.
He has a connection like I understand because I'm afraid that I'm not good
With my demo tape.
at rock and roll. We see that Marty plays rock and roll, and then we can say that maybe he learns through this experience that he should go for it. If you put your mind to it, you can achieve anything, which is he tells George tells him. What do I always say? I always say this. He only says that because Marty told him that when he was a teenager.
Yeah.
Brilliant time travel, filmmaking, storytelling in my personal opinion. So we see that maybe he could have learned that lesson, but we never see that he does.
Yeah.
So in a sense, if we're just taking the movie on itself, what's on the page per se, Marty doesn't really change at all. Who does change is George. We see that George learns that he needs to have confidence. He needs to stand up for himself. And he's really, if we were going to go with this traditional dramatic structure, storytelling sense, really George is kind of the main character. And his character is the catalyst for everything, and completely reactionary.
What about Doc being the lead? Because you start this movie in Doc's house, and then it's almost a journey. Because I find I almost get a tear in my eyelid yet again when you have Doc succeed. Like, you know how it's like he is the frustrated inventor that nothing works right.
Yeah.
And he has these little moments like, it works! And near at the end of it, when he has that little, he does a little dance.
Yeah.
Hey!
Yeah.
And he has the same kind of, he does it a couple times, but like, you're almost like, and they linger on it. Like,
Yeah.
I wonder if it could be argued too that Doc's kind of the,
Yeah,
you can
see that. But honestly,
I certainly agree with you.
We see that Doc does succeed, or else the time machine wouldn't. There's a little bit with George after Biff leaves in that scene that we were talking about earlier, where Biff in present, and Biff's like, "What are you looking at, butthead? Say hi to your mother for me." It's that, and
he says, "Why do you let him do this, Dad?"
Yeah,
I
and he's like,
that car.
I needed that car, and he's like, well, he's my supervisor, and and I'm just not good with confrontation.
Yeah,
which is like. That's what George has to learn as a character, as possibly, arguably, our protagonist. His arc has to be now. You've now seen it. He's not good at confrontation, and we see because of Lorraine's unhappiness that
because of him not facing his fears,
because of his not being able to deal with confrontation, is possibly what's wrong with this relationship.
Yeah. And it spiraled into something that's so far now down the road and removed from that.
And so it took Marty to go back in time, screw up the space-time continuum,
fix that,
and then have to fix it to give George the confidence to be able to change.
And luckily, George had the wherewithal to actually, when he was faced, there's certainly situations where he could have walked away from that car when Biff was sexually assaulting Lorraine. I would have hate to see a movie where a very realistic movie where it's like he gets it and he doesn't do it. You had the chance.
And then Marty just disappears in the trunk, and they open up the trunk, and Marty's
damn, this pie is really strong. This reefer is where it's
even
at.
as a kid, I thought that scene was so disturbing.
Which scene where he's fading?
Where Biff is in the car and he's like, "Get out of here, McFly!"
Oh yeah,
and she's like, "George, help me!"
Yeah.
And your head pops up over the
and then, with her big dress, she can't see anything.
And
just
then
legs.
even the scene, even when he gets out and he twists George's arm, the way that's shot, where it's like,
and the music, the build-up,
the reaction, it's a way. Even as a kid, I was just talking earlier about like cinematic language. I always thought, even as a kid, even though I never thought of it in this terms, on like a subconscious level, the cinematic language of that scene, the way Zemeckis is telling that story with the shots, like the slightly wide angle, slightly morphed visual of George, like looking up, almost like a nightmare, like when I always talk about with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like she's in the chair and, Leatherface and Grandpa or whatever, the dad and the hitchhiker are like laughing at her and mocking her for crying. It's just like that hyper realism
POV too, right? Maybe.
Yeah, well,
like
we're
looking at her,
seeing her, and they're like, "Oh," and they're like pretending to cry. It's such like a nightmare. Like it's so hyper stylized, hyper realistic, that like that shot always felt to me like a night, kind of like this weird nightmare. And then he clenches his fist, and then the music, that. But that scene, because since you're kind of bringing up that scene, I just wanted to point out, like that scene always kind of, even as a kid, made me really uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think everything plays into it, with everything just crescendoing and him then getting over that fear and then him changing time in that certain respect.
So there's that aspect of, like, I think so much about this script is great, and even that fact that maybe you could argue that Marty doesn't go through a change doesn't hurt. I mean, like I said, it's a general rule, but so many great movies break the rules. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's so much other stuff in this movie that kind of, it's such a minor thing. Like I said, Marty could have learned something. We just never see evidence
maybe he
of
builds
it
the confidence.
because Doc shows up. Maybe we don't learn it because Doc's like, Marty, you gotta.
Yeah,
I mean, he said. I mean,
he's changed. He's physically changed everybody around him into what they to be able to fulfill their potential.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, which people say sometimes are critical of, where he comes back and he has this beautiful house. And his dad's written a book, and it's his first book.
I could see the truck being.
Oh, it's such a sweet truck,
but like a little bit too much.
Yeah,
but I never.
It's like what he wanted.
But that is a success. Like you want to live comfortably.
I know, but
you want to have parents that are happy.
I know, but in the time of the '80s, that was a kind
it's materialistic.
Yeah, it's a capitalism.
I would argue that today is even more materialistic.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree. I completely agree with you. But that's the argument to be had.
But since we were talking about the dance, I do want to just really quickly point out, and I talked about it when I did it, but a couple of years ago, I went and I saw Back to the Future with a live score with an orchestra at Radio City. And I'd never done it before. I've done it since. Like I saw Empire Strikes Back a couple of months ago with a live orchestra score, and I've seen like Fabio Frizzi do the Beyond live score and stuff like that.
Danny Elfman, you saw?
Yeah, but they didn't actually score a movie.
Oh,
they were just playing
doing
the
stuff.
theme.
Yeah.
You didn't go to the movie and just listen to the music as the movie was playing.
Was Alan Silvestri there to do the Back to the Future?
I don't think Alan Silvestri was there, but Strickland was there.
Yeah.
And Leah Thompson might have been there.
Was this for the 30th anniversary?
And Christopher Lloyd might have been there.
See, my day job for the 30th anniversary, the morning show had them, for the 30th anniversary, had Tolan, which is Strickland, Leah Thompson, and Christopher Lloyd were all there. And I worked nights, so I couldn't. So they must have been on the same press junket.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have a Q&A or anything. They just came out and like waved. Although Silvestri might have been there. He didn't lead the orchestra.
Yeah.
Bob Gale was there.
That's sweet.
But what happens is you go to the intent you're going to watch this with the live orchestra, but then you get caught up in the movie and you just completely forget that you're watching it with the live orchestra. It's almost like it was a waste,
Yeah.
But the one scene where it really hit me was we have the Earth Angel scene. And Marty's like kind of falling apart.
Oh, so they're even playing like
No, there's not a live band playing Earth Angel.
Okay.
But you have the
Sylvester Stallone come over when he's starting to
when they kiss.
Yeah.
But you have like when it's Earth Angel, and then finally he pushes what's the actor's name? Courtney Gaines out of the way onto the floor, and he grabs Lorraine and he kisses her, and then the strings come in,
and then he comes up and starts playing.
It's like because then the orchestration comes in playing Earth Angel, backing the band, and that was like I got goosebumps right now. I got goosebumps thinking about it right now because when that came in, it was really powerful to have the live orchestra come in and play with the band. And really heighten that moment of the kiss.
Yeah.
It was really gorgeous. I just wanted, because that was a personal anecdote. Some of the nitpicky things, like you could say, even before, she says Marty, such a nice name. It's like, nice enough for your third kid, not nice enough for your first kid.
Oh, yeah, because he's the younger one, right?
But so there's that. But then the big thing that sticks out for me, always has, is like, I'm in a time machine. I can go back. I can have as much time as I want. 10 minutes, that should do it. Even best case circumstances. Even better circumstances of that, like when he gets back, the DeLorean doesn't break. down. Best case scenario is somehow he ends up in the parking lot.
How's he gonna?
That's not even enough time to say like he pawns. Doc, pack everything up. We gotta get out of here.
And we gotta get here before the other Marty gets here.
The Libyans are coming. But 10 minutes, half an hour maybe.
Yeah, I guess that was.
But I guess we learned that like even though this whole movie has to do with time, Marty's conception of time, he's not responsible.
Yeah, at the beginning,
he's like would you take the time to play, Johnny Be Good if you knew that your entire existence depends on that you have to be back? Be like, you know what? I got a couple minutes. Sure, I'll play a song.
I wonder,
Marty, where were you? I wasn't going to go back to the 80s in a zoot suit.
I know. That's another thing.
One, he looked pretty good in that zoot suit.
Why did he change it out?
Two, he's wasting time changing it.
Yeah, and he's not even in a zoot suit. He's just in like he's just in trousers and a top, like a dress shirt, and he's like, I can't come back looking like this, my hair styled all slicked back. And for him to play the whole Johnny Be Good, he gets, and I wonder if that's, well, I guess he never had any stage fright about playing in front of people, but it's more of like that's kind of a success until
he's like he's living his dream right there. Like he wanted to play at the dance,
and he's able
he didn't get to play at the dance,
and Marvin's giving him,
hey Chuck, the funny, and then you could nitpick that like the minute Marvin hands up the phone.
He's
for
not
Chuck
even playing Johnny Be Good anymore.
He's playing Eddie Van Halen now.
Yeah,
he
doesn't even get the dance structure and all that. And that's really fun where they have him, pick up. I mean, because Johnny Be Good came out in '58, so that to them is brand new in '55. But that is a great revival of them playing this song, and it's a quaint song. Everyone starts dancing, and it's like it's introducing rock and roll to the kids. Yeah. And then when he goes off the deep end, there are like nods to like what is it, fucking Pete Townsend,
some Hendrix. It's a brilliant piece of like storytelling, like script writing. Like seminar, like workshop.
Yeah.
The idea of
he invents rock and roll.
And you have Bob Gale talk about this, how like they did the postcard,
the index card. Yeah, which is a method
they write down ideas.
You write the scene and you put them up on a bulletin board. Yeah, and
so they get the idea. Like, wouldn't it be fun if Marty invents rock and roll? Okay, so we put invents rock and roll here. What else? So what do we need to do? He needs to go back in time to be able to invent rock and roll. Okay, so we put him right in an index card. He invents rock and roll. If he's going to invent rock and roll, he has to know how to play rock and roll and want to play rock and roll and be able to play. Okay, so Marty's a musician then. So like, how do we, up here, before he goes back in time, we have to establish.
So they come up with these goals that they like, that'll be good payoffs, and they rewrite it, and they kind of go back and write setups to how this can, and it ends up being really well done in a certain.
And I would say like the last, probably most important thing is I've talked about and we've talked about on the show, like the importance of restriction for art and how often the greatest art comes out of having to solve problems.
Yeah.
And their big problem in this case was in one of the many original scripts, the idea was that they needed to go to Nevada or wherever to
an alternate ending
to go. They needed to harness the power of an atomic bomb to get Marty back to the future. So they needed to go
plutonium.
to a nuclear bomb testing site in the middle of the desert. And that was going to cost $1 million. And so however they were going to do it, they're like, you can't go to the desert.
Universal's like, we're not shipping you you're doing it in the back lots. What the fuck are you talking about?
Like, okay, so we can't do that. What are we going to do? And then, like, because they couldn't go do the ending that they originally thought of, they have, like, the best ending that this movie could have, which is like, okay, the clock tower, time.
Yeah.
This is the whole thing. This is the
clock.
The clock is in a lot of ways, like, I guess, like our MacGuffin kind of, and it's, okay, like, we know exactly what time the clock, when the lightning struck, because the clock stopped at that exact second. That becomes the whole catalyst of, now we have like
gigawatts.
The clock in the context of storytelling, which I always love, which we talk about, which is like Marty has 1 week to figure out how to get back to the future.
And that's how you set up. He's not very good with his, he's dispensing his time.
And he's
wisely.
already screwed up the space-time continuum by the time he finds
He's taking
Doc.
too long changing out of his city clothes and then playing Johnny Be Good.
So we have the suspense of, like, this has to work at this exact moment, because if he doesn't, he's going to be trapped in the 50s. But so, like, this
and
idea...
the anxiety of him telling Doc, I got to tell you what happens to you.
I would need to tell you what happens.
That
in the
becomes.
future.
I remember first seeing that, and the first couple times seeing that was a lot of anxiety. Like, you got to tell Doc that you got to save his life because he gets killed by the fucking Libyans. And it's like,
But
get away.
and then it keeps it in the town. It keeps it like in the confined
the
space.
climax. The climax.
It gives us the suspense of the lightning and the timing, and works the clock tower into the whole aspect.
It's
of
brilliant,
time.
and then
it's such a perfect ending.
And then they realized they couldn't. They were scouting Northern California to try to find like where they could shoot this, and they couldn't shoot it in the town. And they realized Universal has a backlot where they shot the original.
All those old 50s movies.
Yeah, the pilot to Twilight Zone. Who goes there? Not Who Goes There. I'm sorry. Where Is Everybody? That was shot in that thing. I think Gremlins is shot on that. I think you said have you been to that?
When I went on my tour, which is probably what we did talk about in that sidecast we did of my trip to California, I went on to almost every studio lot. I took the tours of all the stuff. Warner Brothers, Paramount, Universal, but that day they were shooting the Mindy Project on the back lot, and so I didn't get to go see it. I did see the Psycho House.
It's so iconic because I remember, it's you have Earl Holliman from the Twilight Zone episode pilot running around. Where is everybody? So it's like it's almost part of the Americana. But that's the best way. They have control of every aspect, and you think about it, it's probably a small,
it's tiny.
And so they talked about how to successfully. Do the chase sequence successfully with the skateboard. That's amazing because it looks a lot bigger than it probably already. These little add these segments
when you get
together.
there, it's very tiny. I saw the town square at Warner Brothers was like Hazard County from Dukes of Hazzard. That was their town square. It's the town square at the end of Monster Squad.
Yeah,
that church where people are held up in Monster Squad is the same church that in the Lost Boys they go and they take
the holy water.
Launching into the third act where they're going to trap the things. The Seaver house from Growing Pains is right around the corner, as is all the houses from Desperate Housewives.
Yeah,
that show. But when you get there, it's very tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they film things, they make it look like a real.
I think they said
that
this one from Universal, Donna Reed, was shot there, and then they said that elements of Dennis the Menace was shot there, which would be odd because that's supposed to take place in Wichita. But I mean, they shot it in the back lot.
Yeah,
but it's because people were saying
into stores. Yeah,
but they made it sound like that must mean that Dennis took place in California because I'm like that has nothing. That's neither here nor there. Yeah, and
Hazard County is in California.
Yeah, for Christ's sakes. And for that alternate ending, they didn't even know they wanted a car to begin with. They wanted like a fridge.
Yeah,
and
originally it was a fridge.
Like from like atomic testing, and I guess that's something that ended up Spielberg putting in his back pocket and then turning up in Indiana Jones 4. That was the joke of Indy hiding in the fridge for the bomb testing. Yeah. And they came up with a DeLorean, and I think that's such a great idea.
Well, I love that he never finishes his thought. He's like, well, I figured if you're going to, you might as well invent a time machine. You might as well do it in style. Plus the stainless steel.
Something about
he's
going.
about to like.
It's
the way those cars were built. Like the exterior of those cars were like unpainted stainless steel, which was very unique. I don't know if any other car is built that way. So it was like he was about to give us a technical explanation, but then it's like I think Einstein barks.
And they look away. Yeah, because he starts barking because maybe the Libyans maybe that's not. That's later on. But it's such a unique design, and they picked the DeLorean, the DMC-12, because they thought it looked with the gull-wing doors. It looked conceivably because in that scene when they go to the barn, and right out of the EC Comics there, and it's laughable how that's so set up. Perfectly, it looks like a fucking time machine. The kid's holding a comic,
it looks just like that thing.
and then the gull-wing door opens. That's very foreign. He comes out in a hazmat suit or radioactive suit. Yeah. It's so done. The lights are the hazard lights are on. The emergency lights. The I think the headlights are going in weird integrals.
Well, it's kind of it's brilliant in that we're talking about science fiction.
Yeah,
science fiction movie, time travel movie, but. The era of the science fiction film, the EC Comics, science fiction comics, all this was at the height of its kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a love letter to all that. Yeah.
So you have these moments of the comic. We have George wants to write science fiction. George has that comic book when he goes, he's like, I'm Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan.
Yeah.
He has to, it becomes the idea of extraterrestrial life is how Marty has to convince George to cast Lorraine out.
And then at the end of the movie, it's almost like George figured it out because of his book that it's done. It's like it has elements of the whole story.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's clearly like their love story.
Yeah.
How he's had success is through science, is through writing, and then his latest book is telling the story about when Marty was back there.
And it's I love in that era of the 80s, like you have the DeLorean. We've profiled cars on the show. You have the DMC-12. And I love the idea. It's like the Ecto-1 where they retrofit. It's that 80s. The Ecto-1 is like a 59 Caddy ambulance hearse model, and you have they retrofit this beautiful DeLorean, which was only made. John DeLorean made cars from like 81 to 83, and they were hugely expensive. They weren't very good quality, and I think there's something like only 900 or maybe 9,000,
and most of them only are for parts now.
Yeah, only 9,000 were produced, and then they halted in 83. And it's weird because back in the day, somebody only like. It seems to me that people I knew, everybody knew somebody who had a DeLorean in their town. Yeah. Like I saw a DeLorean growing up that like some guy had a DeLorean in the town.
There was, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. We're getting to the age now where, like, unfortunately, people that we know are no longer with us.
Oh, Josh Nasugi?
Josh Nasugi's dad had a DeLorean.
I've never stepped into a DeLorean. I've always wanted to. I mean, it's a mind blowing car. I mean, a lot of gearheads talk about how it's as beautiful as it looks, there's a lot of issues with it. That they were even having problems with on set with the gullwing doors would kind of fail.
Well, also,
and
like
fall.
You can't park it anywhere.
Yeah.
Because you can't open the door.
Yeah, that's a gullwing door issue. You have to be able to.
You can't pull into a parking spot where you have a car on either side of it because then you can't get out of your own car.
Yeah, because when it goes up, it goes bigger, and you're like you said, that now there's become a homegrown industry since they haven't made no DeLoreans have gone off the line since '83. That there is people have these fiberglass fabrications that you can get kits to make new DeLoreans, or there's people who just specialize in all the parts that were sitting in factories to make DeLoreans never got made. Now they're becoming stock parts.
And people collect them, and people that have them, they get together.
Yeah, these
and
DeLorean
they all park
festivals.
their DeLoreans in the parking lot.
And it's very popular. I mean, I wouldn't say as much as the Ecto-1 because you don't see anybody buying like Cadillac hearses, but it's like it's very big to get the customization to make a DeLorean into the Back to the Future DeLorean model, which is even so. As much as you probably have a 50% chance of seeing a regular DeLorean or seeing a DeLorean that's been customed into the to the Back to the Future.
Yeah, it looks like a time machine,
and if people don't know the history of John DeLorean, they should look him up because he ended up getting busted in like he was a sting for like doing a cocaine deal. He was trying to get money to keep the company going, and he got into this elaborate thing, and he was in a hotel room helping to sell like a couple kilos of coke to like undercover agents. They kicked in the door and it fell apart.
Yeah,
but I
feel like it's funny. I feel like they mention it in a fictional context in an episode of 21 Jump Street, actually.
Of John DeLorean.
You're like, how do we get this house? For a sting?
Yeah, and like John DeLorean.
It was not John DeLorean, but like it was the guy who built the car that got stuck. Got cut. But
and it's very much. I think the car could have become like a Tucker, where it's like it could have came and went. And people might not have known about the car, but since they've idolized it or immortalized it in this movie, I mean, they used 6 DeLoreans in all 3 movies, and there's only like 2 left. And then they have the train, of course, from Back to the Future 3. But it's such an iconic, it's one of these. It's like the Ecto-1. It's like the car from whatchamacallit from Smokey and the Bandit. It's so it's just so much as it's half the movie is how beautiful. Yeah, exactly. The Charger.
Batmobile
it's like the Batmobile, McQueen's of Shelby Fastback.
It is one of the great Hollywood cars, vehicles.
I mean, you get like your Matchbox set. You're gonna have a freaking DeLorean. You're gonna have a Matchbox. You have a
Speaking of 21 Jump Street, I just want to some shout outs. Maya Bruton, who plays Lorraine's little sister. She appeared
in the 50s.
She appeared on this show, and she's the little girl from Adventures in Babysitting. Who's obsessed with Thor?
With Thor?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh wow!
You don't say.
So much even.
She was.
Sorry.
Heavens to Murgatroyd.
Oh, I was doing Wilford Brimley. Not Wilford Brimley. What's his name? What's
Joe Besser?
No. What's Martin Short's character?
Oh, and
Grimly?
Ed Grimley.
Ed Grimley. Forsake, but then we'll get into Snagglepuss. Heavens to Murgatroyd.
She played Parker Lewis's little sister, and Parker Lewis can't
Wow,
lose.
that is her. Yeah.
She was in an episode of 21 Jump Street. And she played a pretty big. I don't know how many episodes, but she had a very important, a big episode that I still remember from the Wonder Years.
I don't remember.
Whereas like Kevin goes out with her, and then Kevin breaks up with her or something.
You know, the big episode I remember from that is when Punky Brewster was on that episode when they're they're on like the rowboat. He wants to kiss her and he falls off.
And also Courtney Gaines, who plays plays Dixon in this. He's the redhead guy who's kicking George in the high school when he has the kick me sign. He's the one that cuts in on him and Lorraine, and then
you mentioned him. Yeah,
he's the guy from Children of the Corn. He's in The Burbs. He's the one that came with the frame from.
He's one of what's his face?
Came with the frame.
Yeah.
He was in Can't Buy Me Love. I think he's one of Patrick Dempsey's friends, and he's also, as a lot of actors in the 80s, young actors, was in an episode of 21
Jump Street. And I was looking at, what's her name? Is it Claudia Wells who plays Jennifer in this movie?
Yeah.
She has a very like Sean Young look to me when I looked in the face.
I could see that.
And it's sad because they said the reason she's recast, Elizabeth Shue recast her, is because her mother got cancer and she had to bow out because she had to take care of her mom. And they said they didn't even plan a sequel, which is amazing. At the end of the movie, they just thought it'd be a great climactic ending to leave it. And I remember. So when you saw this originally in the theater, it just ended. And then when they put it on VHS in 86, they added the to be continued to try to gin up some buzz about having a sequel. And then they said had they originally thought that they were really going to do a sequel when they shot it, they wouldn't have threw Jennifer in the car, because in Back to the Future 2, as soon as she wakes up, she knocks herself out and then they get rid of her. They don't need her because that's hard. It's like, how are we going to... I've found that in storytelling. What do you do with the girlfriend or blah 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 in the character? Do they tag her along? And so that's an idea of, and we haven't really had time, but some of the deleted scenes are pretty crazy. And talking to this about my wife, she was saying she remembers seeing the deleted scenes in the movie. So I wonder,
maybe a television version?
There's scenes where like there's extended with him coming as Darth Vader and using the hairdryer, and then the scenes when they lock George McFly in the phone booth when he gets delayed to go out and interject with Marty McFly and Biff. And I think it could be a situation where they extend it to
Well, I remember
Saturday
they used
night.
to show the scene with the hairdryer, because it used to be like, well, where do you get a hairdryer? And then there used to be like,
I have memories of seeing
from
that.
a deleted scene.
Yeah, so it's weird.
Much like how when we did Goonies, you always just hear you'd be like, what octopus?
The
octopus is from a deleted scene.
It's like we talk about when Roger Rabbit, where they had the pighead scene when he comes out of Toontown. Like these are these great deleted scenes. They're like, well, throw them back in for the TV version because say they needed time, or they wanted to just generate buzz that they were airing it on TV, and like we're giving you a bonus before you had DVDs with deleted scenes and stuff. The Marvin and the Starlighters, great. I love that. Was another, we talk about all these quick jokes with Marv talking to Chuck Berry, Marvin Berry, everyone laughing at that. It's just so
well, it's also like the language they use is good because it's not too on the nose. It's like, hey Chuck, it's your cousin Marvin Berry.
Marvin Berry means Chuck Berry. Marvin Berry. Okay, I got it now.
That's not even like.
Well, take a listen to this. And this is the only movie where they have the car, which I thought was a great device when it time travels, comes out covered in ice.
Yeah,
and I love that idea. That like for whatever reason,
hot, comes in cold.
Yeah, and it's they kind of gloss over what's actually happening when they send it to ILM, and ILM does the effects. But basically, if you think about what the car is doing, is whatever is on the car and goes along the side to the front, it's shooting something out that's opening a portal,
which I love the way it looks in the parking lot because it's like creating this field in front of it,
and then it's going to drive,
and
then
it's going to,
and then it
tear open to time,
and then it causes this thing, and then you don't even see that happen because that's covered by an explosion. And they have that great device with the, which was huge. They'd show that when it was coming out, was the tire on fire, and that was a big shot. The reaction of it, and then them turning. Like it's like a composite shot was amazing.
Really bad.
I know,
doesn't hold up now,
which is sad. And that gets us to probably lastly we should cover is the Drew Struzan poster, because when that came out, that is one of the most. it's so funny because me being like a car kid and truck kid when I was little, like I can never figure out the geometry of where the car is supposed to be in that poster because it's on such an awkward angle.
The door looks weird.
It's not at all real, but they had to do it to necessitate to have it look good. But it's such an iconic poster of the time, and it's almost. And then they mimic it in 2 and 3, which is amazing.
Yeah,
but
I would say of 80s movies, you would put it easily top 10 most iconic movie posters.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
if not top 5.
Yeah, and that's a lot of, and probably half those are Drew Struzan works of all the stuff. He did Goonies, the Indiana Joneses. He did Adventures in Babysitting. He might have did Masters of the Universe, which I'm not saying that holds any kind of esteem, but it's
in that style.
Yeah. So it's like it's amazing. Just it all comes together with the Alan Silvestri score, and again Huey Lewis, how big he was in the 80s, and just the meganess of.
Well, it's a perfect example of like they talk about how it's a fairly small movie. It's not a lot of locations. It's quaint,
but it's almost all backline
with the town squares are very small. But Alan Silvestri's score is epic.
Yeah.
It
is like a John Williams.
It's one of those kinds of scores. I've talked about it on my podcast and even in my book, but even talking to like Richard Band, who did the score for a pretty standard slasher movie, House on Sorority Row in the 80s, his score is so big and lush that it adds production value. It adds like gravitas.
Yeah.
And then Silvestri's score does that. One, instantly recognizable, hummable theme. And then just like the size, I think they said at the time they'd never used that many pieces in an orchestra, like in the
It's like 86,
80 or 90 pieces.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's funny when you cut to the first appearance of Marvin and the Starlighters. For years, when you get music on a subconscious level seared into your brain, for years I'd always hum that dan da dan da dan da dan da dan da boom boom boom, and I had no idea where that was from. Like that saxophone until I remember now watching this. It's like I've known that for so many years, and you just end up humming things. You don't even know where that's coming from. And then on the What If game, it would have been amazing because the head of Universal wanted to call this movie The Spaceman from Pluto.
Which was a weird reference to the comic book that the kids hold.
Because he thought the idea was so idiotic. And I guess you think about it, when I was little, I used to try to make heads or tails on what the actual title Back to the Future meant.
Yeah.
And I thought, and it was almost, for my young mind, it was so weird.
Oxymoron.
Yeah. So I can see where the studio head's like, that doesn't make sense. He wants to call it Spaceman from Pluto, which was the play on the comic book, and
which was
him
like space zombies from Pluto.
Yeah. So it would have been such an odd movie if you had like Eric Stoltz and John Lithgow starring in Spaceman from Pluto, with what's his face, the guy Wilson or whatever his name was, JJ, or the guy who was going to play Biff in the lead role, and then what's the other
JJ Cohen?
Yeah, playing Biff, and then the other girl from The Rocketeer playing. We had a completely different cast, except Strickland's there. He's the original, So this was kind of an epic in a way, because there's so much. I feel like we can go into down.
There's so much more. I think when we did some movie recently, I was like, this is the most notes I've ever had. This is probably the least notes I've ever had for an
It's off the top of your head.
Because it's like, I know this movie, the way Dion memorizes movies in a way that I typically don't, in terms of like remembers all the scenes and lines. But this is a movie that I have a Dion sense of memory when it comes to this movie.
Yeah, the analytical stuff really goes beyond me. I'm just very like Rain Man-ish with the savantity about like stuff. And the biggest walk away from this really makes me think that like it makes me want to go watch the sequel. It makes me want to go see the third one. It makes me want to just pick up like it's almost like I've been watching the rerun of Roseanne now, and I never watched Roseanne growing up, but I know a lot of people did. But for some reason, that's giving me the same feeling where it's like, oh, it's people and you're comfortable with, and you want to kind of go back and revisit. Maybe you feel like, oh, in your head, these are like neighbors, or it's like a comfortable place. And this is with this. It's like Back to the Future is like.
And it also made me think of like, if they were going to do it now, they'd be going back to like the 80s.
I know that's surreal too, because I thought of that too last night. When we took our nap after we watched the movie, our parents made us take a nap now to calm us down before we recorded. That I was thinking that it's like it really is us now, because then you got to think of the age range. like how old they are, so it is literally them just going back to it's like, what is that? Is that time, hot tub time machine? Is that what they do on that? They go back to the 80s?
Yeah.
And to me, that's not as exciting because it's so played out. Maybe because it was so new in the 80s to do that for the 50s on such a level. And maybe since then, we've seen so many reincarnations of that idea in going back to various times. Because how much of a different movie would it have been if, by accident, Doc Brown left in the birth of Christ? You know what I mean? Like, or if he had left in like 1776. Because someone said that Christopher Lloyd always wanted to do another one where they went back to the Roman era, which that's probably could be complete speculation. But it's like it would be interesting to put, because I don't know if it'd be a comedy anymore if you'd suddenly put it, And then that's the thing they said in the test screen when they tested this movie. They never told the audience in San Jose where they tested it it was going to be a comedy. So when they got to the scene with Einstein and people gasped, and there was like this level of like anxiety.
Dog?
Yeah, until the dog came back, and it was okay because people didn't realize it was going to be a comedy because it wasn't presented to them. And you can easily see that. It could easily take a left-hand turn, and this movie could become very serious with the incest card playing and the other kind of like the sexual assault being set up, like, well, I'm going to try to rape her and you break it up. And he's like, is that a good idea, Marty? I don't know. He's like, it's going to work fine. It's so funny. And then there's even like in the deleted scene, there's a joke. He's like, well, make out with my mom. What happens if, and then Doc's like, you don't have to make out with her, just touch her a little bit or says something. He's like, what happens if I get all screwed up, I come back and I turn out gay? And it's like, whoa, that doesn't really play anymore. Wowzers. Go Gadget Total Recall. So it was so fun revisiting this. And then I know you've always been wanting to do this for centuries.
This is one of those movies that was on my list when we started the show.
Yeah. And
I can't wait till we get around to it.
And it certainly is a script that you can probably go teach. You can look at like all the examples we provided, and then I think there's another movie coming up later this year that we may be doing that, is another example that we think is a solid, left to right script. And like it necessitated two more, and it did, gangbusters in the theater.
I don't want to go down another alley because it's getting late, but I just remember it felt like it was so long between this one and the second one.
That's why I said to you for years.
But now it was only
3 years. But I remember sitting there. It's like Indiana Jones from them doing Indiana Jones.
Like, oh wow, they're finally going to do it. It was like only 3. It came out 4 years after.
But I remember for years that to be continued. But I guess because we were children, it's like, are they ever going to get around to it? It's like,
I mean, each of the Star Wars movies has 3 years in between the original ones.
It's to me, it's like, after they did Last Crusade, Indiana Jones, for them to get the Crystal Skull out, which was 25 years maybe, I don't know, just guesstimating, or 20 years. It's like I feel like that much time went through between Back to the Future 1 and 2. Yeah,
and also was probably the same summer. Last Crusade and Temple of Doom seemed that long too.
Yeah. And then even like, and that's 89, Back to the Future 2 came out. So I don't think that might have been November. That might have been later in the year. But I saw that. It's just like, it's to have all the memories of this movie, because this goes way down the alley.
Way down the alley.
I mean, like I said, it's like one of the last movies I saw with my mom in the theater because she didn't pass away, but But yeah, anyway. But hopefully we weren't too loud this week. We didn't wake my dad up.
We did get a little excited.
If you want to go check that out, last week on Total Recall of all we had so much more we wanted to talk about in Total Recall that we got so off our game. we had to wrap that up quick. We wrapped that son of a bitch up, and then next week or in 2 weeks, our next episode, we have another. We're in the summer season now.
Yeah, an interesting summer planned.
Yeah,
little
hapdash.
Some
new, some old,
some weird surprises.
Yeah,
I think
some left turns, some right turns.
We're taking some turns this year.
Yeah,
should be interesting.
Which I don't think is all that different from our other years, but it's just
we hit summer really hard last year with like summer blockbuster.
We were lobbing over the plate. Yeah, we were just giving
we're taking a different route.
Yeah, we're doing all. But I mean, they're all
on the whole. I mean, we're definitely hitting some summer blockbusters.
And I think they're all favorites of people for one reason or another.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we're going to find out.
Favorites of ours.
Yeah, exactly. We like
that's
them.
all that matters.
We like them. Yeah, because you and I and our parents are the only people that listen to this podcast. But no, that's not true. But I mean, last week was we called an audible. We were going to do Last Action Hero. We ended up doing Total Recall.
Last minute. We're like, you know what? Pop Total Recall it instead.
Yeah. Is that tape rewound? Good, because if it wasn't, we weren't going to do it. Yeah, Last Action Hero wasn't rewound, and that's because we haven't watched it since 1995. So, but yeah, this was great, and this maybe down the line this will have us do. Maybe we should do like 2 and 3 back to back, like we did Ninja Turtles. Do a.
I noticed 85 is a big year for us this year. We've done a lot of 85.
We're going back because last year was 87.
We were doing a 30-year anniversary. Now we're doing a.
Are we doing any more 85s this year?
33-year anniversary.
I don't know. We might be doing more 85 this year.
I know, like, if we hit a couple. We
already
hit a couple this year.
Goonies,
I think.
Yeah,
maybe Highlander. I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe Highlander.
There was a couple.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So, but yeah, thank you very much for listening. We have our we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have our regular site for extras and stuff like that. We have a big, as we said, we have a big summer planned with all of our stuff. If you want to go back into our back catalog and listen to stuff, that's up there. We've got, probably over 100 and gazillion titles already that we've gone through, which is kind of surreal. And Blake, you've got your book and you've got your podcast.
Scored to Death, the podcast, available everywhere podcasts are listened to
and sold.
Also, please, if you have time, please take a moment to rate and review our show and Scored to Death if you listen to it on iTunes. It would be a great help.
If you have to, please rate.
It actually apparently helps in having it be suggested to potential listeners. Like if you have more ratings, we're like, people that listen to this podcast also listen to Saturday Night Movie Sleepovers.
And they won't do that if we're not.
And the more ratings and reviews and stuff that you have, the more likely iTunes is to recommend you to other listeners.
Well, they should do, yeah. So if you have the time and you like this place, this guy, check that out. If you like this place, and then did you say you were telling them to do that to your podcast?
I said if you listen to my podcast,
Scored to Death, do that one too.
Yeah,
even if you don't listen to it, just
give it just give it 5 stars. You don't have to review it.
Help a brother out,
Anyway.
Yeah, we will see you in 2 weeks. It is late, and I guess that's about it, right? We're going to go back in time.
Later.